Chapter 3790. The dimensional barrier was broken and the dimensional turbulence and storms entered the Xuanji Grotto heaven. It was absolutely destructive. Hundreds of black hurricanes swept across the Xuanji Grotto heaven and quickly spread. Wherever the hurricane swept past, space would shatter, mountains, rivers, and other things would all turn into nothingness. In just a few breaths of time, the already dilapidated Golden Dragon mountain range was completely destroyed. Not to mention the dilapidated hillsides and mounds of earth, not even a few handfuls of yellow earth remained. Everything had turned into nothingness. The soldiers of the 10,000 Demon Alliance and the soldiers of the Xuanji Grotto heaven who were running away saw this with their own eyes. They were terrified and they sped up to escape. Unfortunately, the speed of the dimensional storms was much faster than those divine emperors. In less than 20 breaths, the rapidly expanding dimensional rifts and hundreds of dimensional storms would swallow the thousands of divine emperors. The terrifying dimensional storms would indiscriminately crush and swallow everything. Ji Tianqing originally wanted to chase into the dimensional rifts and kill Divine King Warwhale. But when he saw this, he had to take out the chaotic primordial bell to stop the dimensional rifts and dimensional storms from spreading. He had no choice. The 3,000 soldiers of the 10,000 Demon Alliance had to be saved. Otherwise, even if the 10,000 Demon Alliance defeated the Xuanji Grotto heaven, they would be wiped out. In the end, the dominion of the Starsource continent would still be taken away by other forces. Swish! Under Ji Tianqing's control, the chaotic primordial bell quickly expanded and became 100,000 miles wide in the blink of an eye. Such a huge divine bell was equivalent to a sky canopy. The divine bell fell from the sky and not only covered the rapidly expanding dimensional rifts, but also the hundreds of dimensional storms. There were continuous sounds of bang 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 and rustling coming from the divine bell. The gigantic divine bell also trembled violently as it kept flashing with five-colored divine light. Apparently, the dimensional storms were attacking and cutting the divine bell. But the divine bell was an ancient divine weapon and it contained a hint of the Tao. It stopped the expanding dimensional rifts and suppressed the terrifying dimensional storms. The crisis of the Xuanji Grotto heaven was quickly resolved and the thousands of divine emperors who were running away were also out of danger. Everyone looked at the god clock in shock, as if they had just survived a calamity. However, the calm only lasted for a few breaths. The left and right protectors, Hu Xinyue, and the rest of them soon led the soldiers of the 10,000 Demon Alliance to encircle and annihilate the remaining survivors. The 1,000 or so remaining soldiers of the Xuanji Grotto were unable to put up any resistance. Soon, they were completely defeated. 60% of them were Golden Dragon guards. They were loyal to the Xuanji Grotto. Even if they knew they were going to die, they would fight until the very last moment. However, the remaining 40% of godly monarchs and a few godly kings were not from the Xuanji Grotto. Some came from sects and forces under the mysterious grotto, while others came from other realms. Knowing that they would definitely die if they resisted, these people lost their will to fight and simply surrendered. After all, their loyalty to the Xuanji Grotto was built on benefits. Since the Xuanji Grotto was powerful enough, they naturally had to show their loyalty. Now that the Xuanji Grotto was doomed to be destroyed, they had to find a way out for themselves. Thus, the battle ended very quickly. After the soldiers of the 10,000 Demon Alliance killed more than 500 gold dragon guards, they began to clean the battlefield and deal with the 400 captives. On the other side, Ji Tianqing used the primordial chaos bell to block the void storm. Then, he chased into the void with his sword. After escaping into the void, God King Warwhale charged into the depths of the void without looking back. However, after flying for tens of thousands of miles, he realized that Long Tian was not chasing after him. He could not help but use his divine consciousness to check. Seeing the void storm wreaking havoc in the Xuanji Grotto, he was relieved. Because he knew that Long Tian would definitely stop the space from shattering and stop the raging void storm. First, Long Tian would not allow the 3,000 soldiers of the 10,000 Demon Alliance to be killed by the Void Storm. If that happened, the 10,000 Demon Alliance would be destroyed. Second, Long Tian would not allow the Xuanji Grotto to be destroyed. The 10,000 Demon Alliance still wanted to occupy the grotto and control the entire continent. Therefore, God King War Whale was certain that Long Tian would be killed by the Void Storm. His nervous heart immediately relaxed. However, just as he relaxed his nervous mood, his heart instantly rose again. This was because his divine consciousness had detected that Long Tian had already passed through the void rift and chased into the void with his sword. What was even more infuriating was that the moment that guy entered the void, it was as if he became a different person. He was even more like a fish in water than him. Whoosh! His speed actually doubled. Furthermore, he was incomparably adapted to the void's environment without any discomfort. Regardless of whether it was the terrifying cold air or the turbulence, traps, and storms lurking in the darkness, he could avoid them all in advance. That feeling was like the void was his home. In just an instant, the distance between the two people closed from 100,000 miles to 50,000 miles. In another 10 breaths of time, he would be caught by Long Tian. God King War Whale was shocked and enraged. He could not resist cursing in his heart, despicable bastard. Actually unwilling to give up, swearing to have a showdown with this king. This king is not someone from the Xuanji Grotto. I just came to help out on account of our relationship. Now that things have come to this king already took the initiative to retreat. How can he be so insensible? If he really forced this king into a corner and fought it out with him until both sides suffered heavy losses, is this the result that he wants to see? The way God King War Whale saw it, top powerhouses were not just powerful, they also had to be shrewd enough, adept at weighing the pros and cons, proficient in scheming and scheming. If he were Long Tian, he definitely would not pursue under this sort of circumstances. As the saying went, leave a way out for a demon so that we can meet again in the future. Giving each other a way out today, they could still turn enemies into friends in the future. Wasn't this a skill that every big shot should master? Yet, encountering Long Tian this stubborn, it was also unlucky enough. While feeling gloomy in his heart was gloomy, God King War Whale still did not dare to lower his guard, flying with all his might. However, after the two people chased for several 100,000 miles, Ji Tianqing still caught up to him. Swoosh! Wielding the sword of burial of heaven, Ji Tianqing used some kind of divine ability and actually teleported 1,000 miles in the void, blocking in front of God King War Whale. God King War Whale was immediately filled with shock, staring at Ji Tianqing with dumbfounded eyes and slack jaws. You! What kind of divine ability is this, to actually be able to teleport in the void? If not for the fact that he had some respect for the heavenly Tao in his heart, God King War Whale really wanted to curse out loud. Damned heavens, you cheated for this guy, right? There's no justice in this world. Ji Tianqing raised his brows, looked at God King War Whale, and said in a playful tone, very curious. Do you want to learn? God King War Whale withdrew his war whale body, transforming into a 30-foot-tall human form, frowning and looking at him silently. He had a hunch that this was absolutely not something good. Indeed. Ji Tianqing said with a smile, a long time ago, I had a companion, a blue koan. I originally planned to raise it and make it my mount. But unfortunately, it died in a great battle. And now, I want to fulfill that dream. Although you're not a koan, just a war whale, I can reluctantly accept it. Chapter 3791. God King War Whale was stunned. Anger began to build up on his face and his eyes turned cold. He didn't know how many years it had been, but this was the first time he heard that someone actually dared to say such words to his face. The creatures of the dragon realm were mostly beasts, ferocious beasts, and divine beasts. Their concept was different from that of the divinity. They rarely thought of mounts or pets. For a powerful warrior like God King War Whale, being treated as a mount was a great insult. He glared at Ji Tianqing and said in a low and cold voice, "Long Tian. Do you really want to force me? I didn't step back because I was afraid of you. I just didn't want to die with Xuanji Grotto. I didn't want to become enemies with the Myriad Beast Alliance. If you insist on going your own way, don't blame me for not showing mercy." Even though godly Emperor Battle Whale was too ashamed to speak his mind in the Xuanji Wonderland, Qin Nan did not dare to speak his mind. But now that things had progressed to this point and only he and Ji Tianqing were in the void, that was all he could say. Ji Tianqing knew what God King War Whale was thinking and knew that he wasn't lying. But he wasn't going to back down, nor was he going to let God King War Whale go. Then why didn't you think of this when you accepted God King War Dragon's invitation to help Xuanji Grotto? Isn't it too late to say this now? Then what do you want? God King War Whale frowned, killing intent surging in his eyes. Ji Tianqing's attitude was still unyielding. He sneered and said, "Everyone has to be responsible for their own actions, and they should pay the price for their mistakes. As a powerful God King, don't tell me you don't understand this." God King War Whale's face darkened even more, but he still sneered confidently. "Even so, you can't do anything to me, much less kill me." The two had fought for 2 hours and exchanged more than 10,000 blows. This was proven. Ji Tianqing didn't think so. "That's right, I can't kill you. But I can severely injure you, teach you an unforgettable lesson, and make you behave for a few decades." Now that the Myriad Demon Alliance had conquered the Xuanji Grotto, they would gradually take over the Starsource continent in the next few decades. During this period, the Myriad Demon Alliance had to guard against the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's revenge and the Battle Whale God King's rebellion. Ji Tianqing did not want to see any accidents during the 10,000 Demon Alliance's unification of the Star Source continent. Therefore, he felt that severely injuring God King War Whale and forcing him to go into seclusion to recuperate for a few decades was the safest way. God King War Whale's expression darkened as he thought about it. When he realized this, he couldn't help but grow even more furious. "Very good. Long Tian, you are indeed confident and arrogant. Then this king would like to see what other tricks and trump cards you have that you dare to boast so shamelessly." With that, God King War Whale took out a dark golden halberd that was 6 meters long. The long handle of the halberd was as thick as an arm. Its design was exquisite, simple, and majestic. The halberd at the top was split into 3 halberds, each with a 2-edged blade that flickered with a faint blue divine light. This was God King War Whale's natal divine artifact, the Sea-Splitting Halberd. Of course, this was only a high-grade king-grade divine artifact. God King War Whale's greatest regret was that he didn't have a single supreme-grade king-grade divine artifact. If not, he wouldn't be ranked last among the 4 peak God Kings of the Star Source continent. "Die, Long Tian!" God King War Whale roared with a murderous aura. He held the Sea-Splitting Halberd with both hands and charged at Ji Tianqing domineeringly. His entire body emitted a faint blue divine light that condensed into a pair of huge wings. They could help him maneuver in the void and protect him at critical moments. With a wave of the Sea-Splitting Halberd, blue light that covered the sky and shone with more than 200 types of laws and divine runes charged at Ji Tianqing. It was fortunate that they were fighting in the void. If they were fighting in the Dragon Realm, the sky would have been torn apart by the sharp blue blades. The spatial barrier of the Dragon Realm would not be able to withstand such powerful divine power. Ji Tianqing was enveloped by the blue light and suppressed by more than 200 types of laws and divine power. He felt his divine body stiffen, his divine power blocked, and his battle prowess was greatly reduced. Fortunately, his movements in the void were not restricted, and he had a natural advantage. Seeing the blue blades coming at him, he instantly retreated 100 miles to avoid the sharp blades. He held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and slashed with all his might. Like a golden divine dragon, it charged at God King War Whale. Heavenly Dragon Slash. The holy golden dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it viciously tore apart the blue blades of light that filled the sky. Unfortunately, when the holy golden dragon shattered the sharp blades that filled the sky, its power was also exhausted. God King War Whale only swung his halberd and shattered the golden dragon. The two of them were evenly matched, and neither of them had the upper hand. God King War Whale swung his halberd again and instantly shot out 96 icy blue light pillars that formed a formation and blasted at Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing countered in an orderly manner, slashing out more than 200 sword lights, clashing with War Whale Deity King. The divine powers that the two of them used collapsed again. Neither of them was injured. Ji Tianqing immediately used the 10 directional vanishing shadows, and his body split into 8, creating 7 clones. He and the 7 clones worked together to form the 8 extreme battle formation and surrounded God King War Whale, attacking fiercely. God King War Whale had seen the power of this divine power when they were fighting in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven, so he naturally did not dare to underestimate it. However, he did not panic and quickly took out 9 calming divine pearls, which circled around him. Each of the 9 calming divine pearls was a superior grade king-level divine artifact. They could form an array to form a shield and release the power of a divine array to kill enemies. Under the protection of the 9 divine pearls, God King War Whale was like a tiger that had grown wings. He could deal with Ji Tianqing and the 7 clones more easily. Both sides engaged in a fierce battle in the sky, exchanging blows back and forth. Every single move was extremely exquisite and possessed extraordinary might. The aftermath of the two of them fighting was like ripples that spread in all directions, creating layers of ripples in the vast void. Unfortunately, there was no audience for this marvelous battle. If there were other God King experts present here, they would surely be dazzled and fascinated by this scene, and they would be filled with admiration. After all, this was a battle between the top experts of the Starsource continent and even the entire Dragon Realm. Many divine lords and divine kings might not be able to see it with their own eyes in their entire lives. Not to mention the dazzling light of the divine arts when the two of them were fighting, it was very enjoyable to watch. Just their understanding of divine powers, laws and techniques were enough for many divine kings to learn and comprehend. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Soon, 10 hours had passed. Ji Tianqing and God King War Whale exchanged 100,000 moves and both of them had used up almost half of their divine power, but they were still evenly matched. Both of them were slightly injured, but neither of them had the upper hand. God King War Whale gradually lost his patience and wanted to mock Ji Tianqing before thinking of a way to retreat. However, he did not expect the primordial chaos bell to fly over from afar and join the battle. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 3792. Ji Tianqing's strength was not enough to make God King War Whale wary. What he was truly wary of was the primordial chaos bell. When he was escaping from abstruse Grotto Heaven, God King War Whale used his consciousness to detect that Ji Tianqing had left the divine bell in abstruse Grotto Heaven to block the spatial rifts and void storms. Therefore, even if Ji Tianqing caught up to him and swore to defeat him, he was not worried. But it was different now. Under the suppression of the primordial chaos bell, the spatial rifts and void storms in abstruse Grotto Heaven rapidly weakened. Under the restoration of the heavenly Tao laws, the spatial rifts quickly closed. Abstruse Grotto Heaven's spatial barrier had been restored, and the primordial chaos bell's mission was completed. It actually returned to Ji Tianqing's hands. He was like a tiger that had grown wings, and his combat strength increased greatly. God King War Whale's expression changed immediately, and he made up his mind to escape. Without the divine bell's help, Ji Tianqing could fight him to a draw. Now that Ji Tianqing had the divine bell, he was definitely no match for him. Swoosh! God King War Whale exchanged a blow with Ji Tianqing, and used the powerful impact to escape into the depths of the void. His speed was raised to the limit, and he turned into a faint blue light, traveling thousands of miles in an instant. But Ji Tianqing was already prepared. The moment he turned to escape, he cast a spell to activate the primordial chaos bell, and it expanded to a radius of tens of thousands of miles. The massive primordial chaos bell was as black as ink, and it seemed to have become one with the void. In just an instant, it covered a radius of 50,000 miles, sealing off the area. God King Warwhale had just flown 40,000 miles when he was about to crash into the primordial chaos bell's wall. He reacted instantly, and he was shocked and angry. He could not help but curse, "Damn beast. Is he really going to kill me? What is he relying on? Isn't he afraid of forcing me into a corner?" As he cursed, he hurriedly stopped running, and he turned to look at Ji Tianqing with the sea-splitting halberd in his hand. He saw that in the void tens of thousands of miles behind him, Ji Tianqing was flying over unhurriedly. He was certain that Divine King Warwhale would not be able to escape and would definitely be suppressed within the primordial chaos bell. There was a confident smile on his face. Deity King Warwhale was also very calm. He released his divine senses and used his divine arts to observe the primordial chaos bell. He already knew how powerful the primordial chaos bell was, but this was the first time he was trapped inside it. Even though he knew that there wasn't much hope, he still wanted to give it a try. He wanted to see if he could break through the suppression of the divine clock and escape. He could clearly sense that not only was the divine bell incomparably sturdy and difficult to break, but it was also imbued with powerful laws and array Dao divine power. If they wanted to escape from the divine clock seal, it would definitely not be a simple matter. They would need to think about it at length. However, before he could further investigate the mystery of the God clock, Ji Tianqing flew over. Seeing that Ji Tianqing had no intention of communicating and was about to attack, God King Warwhale frowned and said in a low voice, "Long Tian. What are you trying to do? Your aggressiveness will do no good to the 10,000 Demon Alliance. I believe that you are not such a reckless person either. If you have any conditions or requests, we can still talk about it." Ji Tianqing's unreasonableness gave God King Warwhale a headache. He felt that Ji Tianqing's actions were unreasonable. Even though Ji Tianqing had explained the reason was not sufficient. It was too far-fetched. God King Warwhale felt that Ji Tianqing must have some other scheme. It was just that he was unwilling to say it out loud. Hearing God King Warwhale's words, Ji Tianqing, who was about to attack, was stunned. He raised his eyebrows and said in a playful tone, "I have said many times that I only want to injure you and ask you to obediently go into seclusion for a few decades. Why don't you believe me? Why do you feel that I have other motives? Is that not the case? How can there be such a ridiculous reason?" God King Warwhale frowned and asked. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and said with a serious expression, "Since you don't want to fight and want to use other methods to solve this matter, I will give you a chance. As long as you agree to my 2 conditions, today's matter will be over. How about it?" God King Warwhale was silent. He thought to himself, "This despicable little bastard, he really has other motives." Although he was secretly relieved and felt that there was still room for negotiation, he was still wary. However, he was also full of vigilance. He was worried that Ji Tianqing would make an excessive request. After a moment of consideration, he nodded and said, "What are the conditions?" Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly, "First, you have to answer one of my questions truthfully. There must not be any deception." God King Warwhale frowned and seemed to want to bargain. Ji Tianqing added, "Don't worry, this question will not make you reveal any secrets, nor will it harm the interests of you and the Warwhale clan." God King Warwhale's brows relaxed when he heard that. He nodded and said, "I can agree to this." "What's the second condition?" Ji Tianqing said with a playful smile, "You also know that the reason I pursued you so relentlessly is because I want you to rest for a few decades. Let's not beat around the bush. The Xuanji Grotto heaven has been conquered, and the Starsource continent is ours. In the next few decades, we will be busy taking over the Starsource continent. We have no time to waste on you. So, you only need to swear a heavenly oath that you will not interfere with the myriad demon alliance's takeover of the Starsource continent for the next 100 years. You cannot become enemies with the myriad demon alliance, nor can you directly or indirectly interfere with this matter. In this way, this king's goal can be achieved, and naturally, I won't fight with you again. What do you think? This. God King Warwhale frowned and fell into hesitation. His face was very dark, and his eyes flashed with anger. Obviously, he felt that being forced to swear a heavenly oath was a very humiliating thing. Previously, he learned from God King Wardragon that Xue Shang was forced by Ji Tianqing to swear a heavenly oath that he would not attack Ji Tianqing. At that time, he felt that it was laughable, and even Xue Shang snorted and looked down on him. He did not expect that in the blink of an eye, he would follow in Xue Shang's footsteps and become a laughing stock. However, he was in a very passive position now. No matter how humiliating this condition was, he could not easily reject it. He had to weigh the pros and cons and consider the consequences of this matter. Ji Tianqing was not anxious and did not rush him. He patiently waited for his answer. His expression and attitude were very calm. Even if God King Warwhale did not agree to this condition, he did not care. At most, the negotiation would fall apart, and they would continue to fight. After about 20 breaths of time, God King Warwhale raised his head and looked at Ji Tianqing expressionlessly. The anger in his eyes had already dissipated. Clearly, he had suppressed the anger in his heart and made a choice. Long Tian, I can agree to 2 of your conditions, but you must keep it a secret and not reveal it to anyone. This is the agreement between you and me. Ji Tianqing was not surprised by God King Warwhale's conditions. After all, God King Warwhale was also afraid that he would reveal the news and embarrass himself, becoming the laughingstock of the Starsource continent. Chapter 3793. After God King Warwhale finished speaking, he stared coldly at Ji Tianqing, waiting for his reaction. Ji Tianqing revealed a playful smile and said, although I can understand your feelings, I'm sorry, but I can't agree to your conditions. You. God King Warwhale was enraged, his eyes flashing with fury. Terrifying killing intent burst out from his body, and he was about to turn hostile and break the agreement. Ji Tianqing, however, was not in a hurry. He continued, God King Warwhale, you need to be clear about your situation. You don't want to fight right now, so I'm giving you a chance to settle this peacefully. If you can't accept these 2 conditions, then we'll have to return to the previous topic and see who's stronger. Let's fight first. As he spoke, he activated the primal chaos bell and released a majestic aura, causing the pressure on God King Warwhale to multiply. God King Warwhale fell silent again, his anger and killing intent receding into his body. He frowned deeply, his expression dark as he pondered. His heart was clearly conflicted. Ji Tianqing knew that he was at a critical juncture, and the slightest mistake could change his mind. In fact, he was acting so forcefully because he knew what God King Warwhale was thinking. He didn't want to be buried with Enigma Grotto and wanted to protect himself. Now, he had forced God King Warwhale to a dead end. If Shao Qin continued to pressure him, this peak divine king would probably get angry and start an intense battle for the sake of his dignity and face. Even if Ji Tianqing was confident that he could injure God King Warwhale with the primal chaos bell, he wouldn't have it easy either. Ji Tianqing didn't want to see both sides suffer. After all, he still had many things to do. Therefore, when he saw God King Warwhale so hesitant and conflicted, he said, God King Warwhale, although I can't agree to your conditions and help you keep this secret, I believe you. I'm not a talkative person, and I won't make a joke of this matter and spread it everywhere. This won't do me any good. You know that I only want the 10,000 Demon Alliance to take over the Star Origin continent smoothly. Why would I cause any trouble? Seeing that Ji Tianqing's words were reasonable, and his expression, eyes, and tone were sincere and calm, God King Warwhale couldn't help but believe him a little. But he was still a little worried, so he tried to say, "But, you still have to give me a promise before I can be at ease." There was a difference between a promise and an oath. Of course, for top experts like him and Ji Tianqing, a promise was also very effective, second only to an oath to the heavens. After all, they were all peak divine kings, and also the few people with the highest authority and status on Starsource continent. Everyone cherished their reputation and reputation. No one would be a fickle and untrustworthy person, even Xue Shang, who did not have a dignified and domineering aura, did not dare to speak carelessly. Therefore, as long as Ji Tianqing made a promise in person, God King Battle Whale would feel much more at ease. Ji Tianqing stared at God King Battle Whale and analyzed his thoughts through his eyes and subtle expressions. After a while, Ji Tianqing was sure that this was God King Battle Whale's bottom line, and also the only thing that worried him. As long as this problem was solved, God King Battle Whale should be able to accept it calmly. Therefore, Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said with a serious expression, "God King Battle Whale, I can promise you that this matter will not be leaked. At most, I will only let a few people I trust know, and I will order them not to leak it." This. God King Battle Whale's expression eased a lot, but he fell into deep thought and did not immediately agree. Ji Tianqing looked at him calmly. His expression didn't change, and he didn't say anything. Obviously, he had already shown his bottom line by saying so much. God King Battle Whale was naturally aware of this. After pondering for a while, he finally sighed and nodded. "Fine. I have no grudges with you or the Myriad Demon Alliance. I can only blame myself for taking a wrong step and helping Mysterious Grotto. Now that we've come to this conclusion, it can be said that we've settled our grudges. Ask away, Long Tian." Ji Tianqing did not waste any more time and asked directly, "More than 10 years ago, did you attack the lower realms? Or did you save or see a human youth?" "Lower realms?" God King Battle Whale frowned, his face full of doubt and confusion. Although peak God Kings can comprehend the will of the heavenly Tao and condense a trace of the Tao, they are qualified to intervene in the lower realms. However, I was born in the Dragon Realm and grew up in the Dragon Realm. I have nothing to do with the lower realms. In fact, I have never even been to the God Realm, so why would I intervene in the lower realms' affairs? As for the human youth you speak of, I heard that the human race is an ancient race, right? Didn't they die out 30,000 years ago? Truth be told, I've never seen a human before in my life. God King Battle Whale's expression was rather strange. His gaze when looking at Ji Tianqing clearly had the meaning of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Originally, he even thought that Ji Tianqing was going to ask about some important matter, some secrets related to the Dragon Realm. He did not expect that he would actually ask such a nonsensical thing. Ji Tianqing observed his expression carefully. Seeing his reaction, he knew that he was not lying. Back then, Ji Tianqing returned to the Dragon Realm precisely to find Ji Wuhan. Although what abducted Wuhan across the realm back then was a golden dragon's enormous claw. But Ji Tianqing could not confirm that the one who abducted Wuhan was definitely a peak God King Realm golden dragon. That golden dragon's enormous claw might just be a divine ability transformed from an arcane art. Therefore, every peak God King was suspicious. Even God King Battle Whale was no exception. It was precisely because of this point that Ji Tianqing thought of asking God King Battle Whale this question at the last minute. Since he was sure that God King Battle Whale had nothing to do with this matter, then he did not need to investigate God King Battle Whale anymore. Hence, he continued, God King Battle Whale, you should fulfill the second condition. The second condition was naturally to swear a heavenly Tao oath. Regarding the contents of the heavenly Tao oath, God King Battle Whale pondered for a moment and had an idea. He gathered his emotions, his expression becoming solemn, and was about to open his mouth to recite the oath. But Ji Tianqing suddenly reached out and interrupted him. Hold on. God King Battle Whale's open mouth immediately closed, forcefully swallowing the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He turned his head to look at Ji Tianqing and asked with a frown, "What's wrong?" Ji Tianqing took out a jade slip and handed it to him with a playful smile, saying, "It's a heavenly Tao oath, so of course it has to be solemn and cautious. Don't say every sentence, even every word has to be carefully considered. What you thought of in a hurry is most likely not perfect and strict enough. I've already helped you think of the specific content of the oath. Just recite it according to this." God King Battle Whale was stunned on the spot. His expression was as if he had seen a ghost, his eyes glaring angrily at Ji Tianqing. That gaze seemed to be saying, "What the hell? You predicted this step long ago and even made preparations in advance just to scheme against this king." Chapter 3794. Although God King War Whale understood the truth, he was even more depressed and aggrieved than before. Especially when he saw the heavenly Tao oath that had been prepared in the jade slip, his heart collapsed and he was speechless. The heavenly Tao oath that Ji Tianqing had provided was actually long and detailed, with a total of over 1,000 words. The contents of the oath not only described in detail the promise that God King War Whale had to fulfill, it also took into account all kinds of normal and abnormal accidents, and also limited and explained them. All in all, this was an oath to the Heaven Tao that was extremely perfect and detailed to the point of being horrifying. It was utterly impossible to pick out the slightest mistake from it, and it was impossible to take advantage of it. Your heavenly Tao oath is really strict enough. God King War Whale held the jade slip and looked at Ji Tianqing with a complicated expression, gritting his teeth as he spoke. Ji Tianqing ignored his anger and said indifferently, "It's good to be strict, this way you and I can both be at ease, and the heavenly Tao will also feel that we are sincere." God King War Whale frowned and lowered his voice, saying in a contemptuous tone, "Long Tian, you are also a peak God King, don't be so mysterious. Do you think that a mere heavenly Tao oath can restrain people's hearts? You should know very well that other than those ignorant weaklings, the stronger one is, the less respect they have for the heavenly Tao." Ji Tianqing could not help but reveal a cold smile, "Since you do not respect the heavenly Tao and feel that a heavenly Tao oath cannot restrain you, why don't you hurry up and swear a heavenly Tao oath and end this matter?" God King War Whale was speechless and his face flushed red. Indeed, he was like many God King experts, feeling that the concepts of heavenly Tao oath and heavenly Tao will were too illusory. After all, from ancient times until now, no one could say for sure what the heavenly Tao was. But the power of the heavenly Tao was real, no one could go against their conscience and say that the heavenly Tao did not exist. Therefore, everyone's mentality was very complicated, and they were skeptical of heavenly Tao oaths and rules. For example, Xue Shang was in such a situation and mentality during this period of time. He was very confused and very aggrieved. Many times, he wanted to ignore the heavenly Tao oath and fight to the death with Ji Tianqing. But when this thought appeared in his mind, his hands and feet would be tied, and he could not help but shrink back. God King War Whale was silent for a moment before he suppressed his sullen and depressed emotions. At this point, he could not resist. He only wanted to end this as soon as possible and then return to the South Sea to cultivate in seclusion. He did not want to see Ji Tianqing again. This person was too hateful. Then, God King War Whale held the jade slip and began to recite the heavenly Tao oath with a solemn expression. Ji Tianqing originally wanted to take back the primordial chaos bell to prevent the Tao runes of this divine artifact from affecting the heavenly Tao's senses. But he obviously worried too much. God King War Whale's clear voice reverberated through the primordial bell. Soon, strands of Taoist rhymes appeared above his head and around him, and the will of the heavenly Tao descended. Clearly, even a supreme-grade king-level divine artifact like the primordial chaos bell could not block the detection of the heavenly way. When God King War Whale was halfway through reciting the heavenly Tao oath, the heavenly way's senses had already formed. Around God King War Whale, mystic rays of Taoist rhymes formed like lotuses. After a short while, when God King War Whale finished reciting the heavenly Tao oath, thunder rumbled in the void, and the mighty power of the heavenly Tao descended. God King War Whale's divine body and divine spark were enveloped by the power of the heavenly Tao, forming a connection with the heavenly Tao. This meant that the heavenly Tao oath had been formed and came into effect. Previously, God King War Whale was still skeptical about the binding power of the heavenly Tao oath. But now, he personally felt the power of the heavenly Tao. That vast and mighty power that he could not muster the slightest bit of resistance caused his expression to change. His face was a little pale, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. There was also a trace of reverence and fear in his eyes. He did not doubt that if the mighty power of the heavenly Tao wanted to punish him, he would not be able to resist at all and would be reduced to ashes immediately. The will of the heavenly Tao oath, it really does exist. God King War Whale held the jade slip in his hand, watching the Tao charm gradually dissipate with a pale complexion as he muttered in his heart. After 10 breaths, the power of the heavenly Tao and the Tao charm already dissipated. Everything returned to tranquility. But God King War Whale's heart was still surging with raging waves, unable to calm down. And at this time, Ji Tianqing was also frowning, currently pondering over a problem. Strange, God King War Whale swore the heavenly Tao oath and indeed attracted the heavenly Tao law and power. It even bore a lotus-like Tao charm. But back then, when Xueshang swore the heavenly Tao oath, there was no such activity at all. Could it be that the heavenly Tao oath I made Xueshang swear was really too simple, and didn't receive the response of the heavenly Tao, so it didn't come into effect? Ji Tianqing knew that there would still be many opportunities to become enemies with peak divine kings in the future. But most of the time, if he could not kill a peak divine king, he had to restrain the other party's actions. Then, the heavenly Tao oath was the best choice. Through Xueshang and God King War Whale's experiences, he roughly figured out the way and also had a clear judgment on whether the heavenly Tao oath was effective or not. He felt that this matter could be studied more thoroughly. If he could grasp the correct way to open the heavenly Tao oath, it would definitely be much more convenient for him to do things in the future. Just as he was thinking, God King War Whale had already come to his senses and looked at him expressionlessly. He said, "Long Tian, I have already fulfilled my promise. Shouldn't you also?" God King War Whale did not say anything, only looking up at the huge primordial chaos bell. Ji Tianqing immediately collected his thoughts and did not say anything more. He raised his hand and put away the primordial chaos bell. Swoosh! The huge primordial chaos bell instantly shrunk to the size of a foot and floated beside Ji Tianqing. As he put away the divine bell, God King War Whale only felt the pressure on him suddenly decrease, and his entire body relaxed. He tidied his clothes, used his divine power to wipe away the cold sweat on his forehead, and turned to leave. He did not want to stay a moment longer, nor did he want to look at Ji Tianqing. He did not even want to say goodbye. However, Ji Tianqing put away the primordial chaos bell and reminded him. God King War Whale, remember your promise today. For the next 100 years, stay in the South Sea obediently and do not interfere with the continent's affairs. Of course, God King War Whale remembered. Why did he need Ji Tianqing to remind him? He was unhappy and replied with some anger, of course, I will fulfill my promise. Probably because he was angry, he could not help but ask, Long Tian, although I will not interfere in this matter, don't forget that the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor is still safe and sound. When the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor returns, he will definitely take revenge on the 10,000 Demon Alliance. At that time, if the 10,000 Demon Alliance cannot resist, they will spit out what they have eaten. If you die in the hands of the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor, I will still be very happy. Chapter 3795. Divine Emperor Battle Whale's words were sincere. Although he had reached an agreement with Ji Tianqing, it did not mean that there was no enmity between them. It also did not mean that he did not hate Ji Tianqing. It was just that he had weighed the pros and cons, suppressed his resentment, and was forced to accept this solution. At the same time, he did not mention the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor to threaten or remind Ji Tianqing. He was just stating a fact. Everyone in the Starsource continent knew that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was undoubtedly the strongest. Not only was he the first to become famous, but he also possessed a supreme-grade king-level divine artifact. Old Ancestor Golden Rock, Alliance Leader Luo Ho, and Divine Emperor Battle Whale could not be compared to him. Now that the Myriad Demon Alliance had conquered the Enigma Grotto Heaven, they wanted to seize the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's legacy. This was an irreconcilable hatred. Everyone knew that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor would definitely rush back to the Dragon Realm and take revenge on the Myriad Demon Alliance. At that time, Ji Tianqing and Alliance leader Luo Ho would not be able to defeat the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, or they would be killed by the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. The Myriad Demon Alliance's efforts would still be in vain. It did not mean that the Myriad Demon Alliance would be able to stabilize their position after conquering the Enigma Grotto Heaven. Ji Tianqing smiled and cupped his fists at Divine Emperor Battle Whale. You don't have to worry about this. Or you can stay in the South Sea and wait for news. Divine Emperor Battle Whale frowned and did not say anything after seeing how confident he was, as if he already had the confidence to deal with the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Swoosh! He still didn't even say a word of farewell. He turned around and flew away with a cold face. Soon, he disappeared into the pitch-black void. Ji Tianqing looked in the direction he left and sighed. I thought that as a peak Divine Emperor, he would have some dignity and pride and would definitely not agree to my conditions. That way, I would be able to fight him with all my strength and injure him. I did not expect him to be so cunning and flexible. He even accepted such a humiliating heavenly oath. Ji Tianqing's tone was filled with regret and pity. After all, Divine Emperor Battle Whale was the first peak Divine Emperor he had fought. He was also the best test. It was a pity that he did not get to test his true strength and potential. After a while, Ji Tianqing stepped through the void and returned to the Xuanji Grotto. Although the void storm in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven had dissipated and the spatial tear had basically healed, the Xuanji Grotto Heaven was still in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven. However, the time was too short. There were still some cracks left on the spatial barrier, and they were slowly being repaired by the power of the heavenly law. Ji Tianqing found a spatial crack and forcefully tore it open. Then, he passed through the spatial crack and returned to the Xuanji Grotto. It had been a few hours since the battle had begun. Aside from the violent divine power lingering in the air, Xuanji Grotto had returned to normal. Ji Tianqing flew across the sky and saw that the Golden Dragon Mountain Range had already disappeared, turning into yellow sand and ravines. On a relatively flat piece of land, he saw the soldiers of the Myriad Demon Alliance, as well as over 1,000 Sir Gods and a dozen godly kings from the Xuanji Grotto. All of them wore ragged clothes and were covered in bloodstains. They seemed to be in a miserable state, and they were extremely exhausted and haggard. However, the soldiers of the Xuanji Grotto looked numb and gloomy. Their eyes were filled with confusion and fear. Obviously, they were temporarily captives and did not know what their fate would be. On the other hand, the 3,000 soldiers of the Myriad Demon Alliance were in a better state of mind and they were in high spirits. Everyone had a victorious smile on their faces. At that moment, 2,000 of the 3,000 soldiers were meditating on the ground, concentrating on healing their wounds. The other 1,000 soldiers were Kenshin soldiers with swords, guarding over the 1,000 captives. Ji Tianqing scanned the crowd with his divine consciousness and saw the left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue, who were severely injured. They were healing their wounds and waiting silently. However, Fu Ergu, the Minister of Internal Affairs, and Wanli Divine King were nowhere to be seen. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing flew across the sky and came to the crowd, landing next to the left and right protectors. The two of them and Hu Xinyue quickly came forward and bowed to Ji Tianqing. Young master, you're back. Young master, are you hurt? Where's Divine King War Whale? Has he been killed by the young master? The three of them looked at Ji Tianqing with concern. However, Ji Tianqing did not know whether to laugh or cry at Hu Xinyue's question. He could not help but ask, Divine King War Whale is a peak Divine King. Why is the Great Elder so confident in me? How can a dignified peak Divine King be killed at will? Hu Xinyue was stunned for a moment. Only then did she realize that her confidence in the young master was too strong and unreasonable. However, she quickly smiled and explained, Divine King War Whale is a peak Divine King, but so is the young master. Moreover, I believe that with the young master's strength and means, killing Divine King War Whale will not be a problem. The left and right protectors also nodded in agreement. The three of them looked at Ji Tianqing with burning eyes. Their faces were full of anticipation, waiting for him to reveal the outcome of Divine King War Whale. Ji Tianqing did not explain the details. He just said, Divine King War Whale is not dead, but he returned to the South Sea. For the next 100 years, he will not be our enemy. Hearing this, the three of them's eyes lit up. They all showed excited expressions. As I expected, Divine King War Whale is really not the young master's match. Ha ha ha, the peak Divine King War Whale was also seriously injured by the young master. He could only escape to the South Sea in a sorry state and go into seclusion to heal his injuries for 100 years. The young master is mighty. Clearly, the left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue had misunderstood. Ji Tianqing only said that Divine King War Whale had returned to the South Sea and would not attack again for 100 years. However, the three of them were confident in their imagination and thought that Divine King War Whale was seriously injured and needed to heal for 100 years to recover. However, Ji Tianqing did not intend to explain this misunderstanding. Where's Fu Ergu? Where did he go? The left and right protectors hurriedly explained, replying the young master, during the battle previously, Lord Steward dealt with Divine King War Dragon and Xueshang. He killed Divine King War Dragon in the battle. Unfortunately, Xueshang had a supreme-grade divine artifact in hand. Lord Steward could not do anything to him. In the end, Xueshang charged out and killed more than 200 of our experts before escaping from Xuanji Grotto Heaven. Hearing up to here, Ji Tianqing frowned and asked somewhat worriedly, could it be that Fu Ergu went to chase after Xueshang? Xueshang has old ancestor Qiongqi's indestructible golden body. Even if Fu Ergu chases after him, it's useless. Hu Xinyue hurriedly waved her hand and explained, don't worry, young master. Lord Steward also understands this, so he did not pursue. Lord Steward only brought a dozen Divine King powerhouses to patrol Xuanji Grotto Heaven, searching for those who escaped from the battle previously. Only then did Ji Tianqing relax. He nodded and said, then I'm relieved. During the battle previously, there were indeed many Divine Kings who had their divine bodies destroyed by me, but their divine cores escaped. Fu Ergu personally led the team. Hopefully, he can clean up those guys. The left and right protectors hurriedly nodded, indicating that Lord Steward would definitely complete the mission. Chapter 3796. After figuring out Fu Ergu's whereabouts, Ji Tianqing asked about the situation of the captives. The left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue counted the captives and registered their names, waiting for Ji Tianqing to deal with them. There were a total of 972 captives. Among them, there were 960 god monarchs and 12 god kings. It was Ji Tianqing's decision to kill or keep them. Ji Tianqing's eyes swept across the captives and asked, if I'm not wrong, you killed all the Golden Dragon guards before the war ended? The left protector nodded and said, young master, you have sharp eyes. That is indeed the case. Those Golden Dragon guards are loyal to Xuanji Grotto. We must kill them all to be at ease. Ji Tianqing pointed at the captives and said, since the remaining captives are all subordinate forces of Xuanji Grotto, their loyalty to Xuanji Grotto is limited. In fact, many of them have no grudges with our union. They just followed the wrong master. The right protector nodded slightly and agreed, young master, you are right. Hu Xinyue's eyes brightened. She could roughly guess what Ji Tianqing meant. She asked, young master, you mean, Ji Tianqing said calmly, find out the identity of each captive. If they have any grudges with our union that cannot be resolved, kill them. If they have no grudges with our union, take them in if you can. If you can't, let them go. Of course, before you let them go, everyone must swear a heavenly oath. The left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue were stunned. They turned to look at Ji Tianqing with puzzlement. Young master, why do you want them to swear a heavenly oath? If you want to force them to swear a heavenly oath, why not force them to join our union and work for us? Ji Tianqing waved his hand and smiled, you don't understand. Even if they were forced to join the alliance, they would still have complaints in their hearts. When our union is strong, it is fine. If we encounter a crisis, they will be the source of internal strife. They are a great danger. As for making them swear an oath to the heavenly Tao, it is also to ensure that they will not go against our alliance in the future. After he finished speaking, he took out a jade slip and instructed the three of them, here is a copy of the heavenly Tao oath. The three of you should make a few copies and carry out this matter one by one. Hu Xinyue subconsciously nodded her head and said, yes. She didn't think much about it. When she took the jade slip and used her divine sense to look at the model of the heavenly Tao oath, her expression suddenly became somewhat strange. This. Young master, are you sure, you want them to swear according to this model? Ji Tianqing nodded calmly. Hu Xinyue had no choice but to follow his orders. The left and right protectors didn't know what was going on. They bowed to Ji Tianqing and left with Hu Xinyue to carry out the mission. Not long after, when the two of them forced the captive in front of them to recite the heavenly Tao oath according to the model, the two of them widened their eyes, and their expressions became rather strange. Only now did they understand the reason for Hu Xinyue's strange expression. The model of the heavenly Tao oath given by young master is really detailed and rigorous enough. Listening to the captive's sorrowful expressions and solemn tones as they recited the 1,000-word oath, the left and right protectors inexplicably sympathized with them. Fortunately, the captives' hearts were like dead ashes, and they were full of despair. They thought that there was no way out for them. Now, they were told that they only needed to recite the heavenly Tao oath, and they could leave alive without any punishment. To them, this was simply a piece of heavenly good news. Therefore, even if they recited the heavenly Tao oath that was sufficiently rigorous, they did not feel ashamed at all. Instead, they enjoyed it. Dealing with thousands of captives was a very troublesome and time-consuming thing. In particular, every captive had to be interrogated about their identity and background, and strive to be recruited into the 10,000 Demon Alliance. If they were unwilling to join the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they had to recite the heavenly Tao oath before they could leave. After such a torment, every captive would be delayed for half an hour. As a result, the left and right protectors, Hu Xinyue, Ao Jinying, and the three elders, a total of 7 people, still took more than half a day to carry out this mission. In this half a day, Ji Tianqing had been tidying up the spoils of war, and patrolling the Xuanji Grotto. Needless to say, the spoils of war were, of course, priceless. Just the godhood fragments in his spatial ring alone numbered more than 120, and they were all godhood fragments of god kings. As for patrolling the Xuanji Grotto, the reason was that the Xuanji Grotto's territory was too vast, and it was Ji Tianqing's first time here. He had to carefully inspect the Xuanji Grotto once, to have a sufficient understanding of it, and to look for places that might be dangerous. For example, was there any place in the Xuanji Grotto where some god kings and Golden Dragon Guard commanders were hiding? Or was there a hidden teleportation formation that could lead to the Dragon Realm? Or was there a place where the spatial barrier was weaker that could be broken through from the void and infiltrated the Xuanji Grotto? Ji Tianqing had to be on guard against these questions. It was worth mentioning that Ji Tianqing spent a total of 3 days patrolling the entire Xuanji Grotto. In the process of patrolling, he met the chief of internal affairs, Fu Ergu, who was leading a dozen god kings to search for the defeated soldiers. Fu Ergu killed a dozen hidden godhoods and handed them to Ji Tianqing. In the process of patrolling, Ji Tianqing also found a few hidden godhoods, and smashed them into pieces. As a result, he had a total of 150 godhood fragments. In addition, he also found a few hidden palaces, and 2 hidden treasure vaults. The palaces with special functions and the treasure vaults with hidden treasures were all guarded by a large number of golden dragon guards. Ji Tianqing acted alone and killed all the golden dragon guards. A few palaces remained, but the 2 treasure vaults were emptied. After 3 days, everything was done. The spoils of war that he had accumulated were already a terrifying amount of wealth. That evening, Ji Tianqing returned to the ruins of the Golden Dragon Mountain. 3,000 soldiers and all the overlords of the Monster League were waiting for him there. The thousands of captives had already been dealt with. Other than the 5 god kings and hundreds of divine lords who were willing to join the Monster League, the others left the Xuanji Grotto after swearing an oath. At that moment, everyone was looking at Ji Tianqing, waiting for his orders to carry out the next step of the plan. Ji Tianqing already had a plan, so he ordered the left and right protectors, the chief of internal affairs and the others, take the soldiers of the League back to the Monster City immediately and recuperate. When I'm not in the Monster City, the chief of internal affairs and the left and right protectors will be in charge. Upon hearing this order, it wasn't just the left and right protectors and elders who paled in fright. Many hall masters, branch masters, and divine lord experts were also surprised and confused. Only the chief of internal affairs, Fu Ergu, seemed to have known Ji Tianqing's plan, and he still looked calm. Chapter 3797. Many hall masters, branch masters, and monarch god experts were fearful of Ji Tianqing. Even if they were confused, no one dared to make a ruckus or question him. However, the left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue had won Ji Tianqing's trust and respect. Confused, the 3 of them asked Ji Tianqing in a low voice. "Young master, are you sure you want everyone to retreat? What if other forces occupy it? Young master, we have gone through so much and paid such a huge price to occupy Xuanji Grotto Heaven. The billions of people in Stellar Source Continent all think that Xuanji Grotto Heaven is the rightful ruler. If we don't occupy it, how can we justify it?" Ji Tianqing's expression did not change as he secretly explained to the 3 through voice transmission, "The soldiers have just fought a great battle. It is not suitable for them to stay here. It is better for them to return to Myriad Demon City to recuperate. Don't worry, I will stay here and try to seal Xuanji Grotto Heaven. I will not let it fall into the hands of others. Moreover, as long as the Gold Source Dragon Emperor is not eliminated, our alliance will not be able to truly control Stellar Source Continent. Even if everyone stays here, once the Gold Source Dragon Emperor returns, these soldiers will have died in vain." The left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue suddenly understood Ji Tianqing's meaning. The 3 of them knew very well that although the Myriad Demon Alliance had won this battle, they had suffered great losses. Not to mention that the number of God King experts had been halved, just the number of Monarch God experts had been reduced by 60%. These 3,000 soldiers were the last backbone of the Myriad Demon Alliance. If the Gold Source Dragon Emperor returned and killed all of them or even half of them, the Myriad Demon Alliance's foundation would be severely damaged. The consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, as long as the Gold Source Dragon Emperor was alive, the Myriad Demon Alliance would not be at ease and would not be able to smoothly control the entire continent. Ji Tianqing reminded them again, "I will stay here for a while. You must keep this a secret. Also, I have already instructed the Chief of Internal Affairs to contact Alliance Master Luo Ho and ask him to come back as soon as possible. You don't have to worry. Just do as I say. Only then did the three of them truly feel relieved, and they hurriedly complied. Next, Fu Ergu, the left and right protectors, Hu Xinyue, and the others led the 3,000 soldiers out of the Xuanji Grotto. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Chao Qingyu, Yank, and the others were also severely injured. They all returned to the distorted spacetime to recuperate. In just an hour, the Enigma Grotto had become quiet and desolate. Ji Tianqing was left alone in the Enigma Paradise. Only then did he begin to deal with the aftermath. He rushed to the exit of the Grotto Heaven and destroyed the remaining divine formations. Then, he took out a large number of origin stones, high-grade divine stones, and hundreds of emperor-grade divine artifacts and started to set up a divine formation. For the time being, he was unable to set up a supreme-grade king-grade divine array. However, he could set up 9 high-grade king-grade divine formations, stack them, and merge them together to form a divine formation that was no weaker than a supreme-grade king-grade divine formation. This divine formation was called the 9 Bends of the Heaven River Formation. It could absorb the power of the stars and seal the entrance of the Xuanji Grotto. Without this formation, one would not be able to enter or leave the Xuanji Grotto. Even a peak god king would have to use a supreme-grade king-grade divine artifact to break through this formation. Ji Tianqing knew very well that no matter what formation he set up, it would not be able to stop the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor. He had set up this divine formation only to stop experts other than the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor from entering. Furthermore, when the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor returned and wanted to enter the Xuanji Grotto, he would have to break through this divine formation. It would take a long time. He would also add some special restrictions to the divine formation. This way, when the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor attacked the divine formation, he would be able to sense it no matter where he was. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ji Tianqing stood in the sky. Facing the mountain of origin stones, and divine artifacts on the ground, he sent out beams of divine light with his palms. Under his control, many materials for setting up the divine formation flew out like flowing water and landed around the exit. Then, he made hand seals and began to set up the divine formation. First, he set up the foundation of the divine formation. Next, he set up the veins of the divine formation. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Time passed quickly. Day after day passed. Ji Tianqing was so focused on setting up the divine formation that he forgot about time. He was extremely focused. By the time he successfully set up the 9 Bends of the Heaven River Formation, it was already a month later. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing sent out a beam of divine light with his palms and activated the 9 Bends of the Heaven River Formation. Endless starlight surged from the void and quickly condensed into 9 silver heavenly rivers. The 9 heavenly rivers danced in the air like divine dragons, spiraling up and down. A huge door immediately appeared at the exit of the grotto. It led to the peak of Sky Crane Mountain. Once the divine formation was activated, it would continuously absorb the power of the stars. As long as the stars in the void were not destroyed, the divine power of the divine formation would never be depleted. Moreover, as time passed, the divine formation's power would also grow stronger. After a while, Ji Tianqing sent out a beam of divine light with his palms and closed the door to the exit. He turned and flew into the depths of the Xuanji Grotto. He entered a secluded palace among the mountains and began to cultivate. This palace was one of the holy grounds of the Xuanji Grotto for seclusion. The entire palace was made of rare materials. It had the effect of gathering and purifying divine power. It could also clear one's soul and will and improve one's comprehension. Ji Tianqing entered the secret chamber of the palace. He took out the Jiutian 10 Absolutes Pagoda and entered the distorted spacetime. He used a month to set up the formation. In the distorted spacetime, everyone had been recuperating in seclusion for more than 4 years. When he returned to the blood-flame sacred tree and saw Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and the others, everyone's appearance had returned to normal. They were no longer in a sorry state and tired state. Their injuries had also recovered by more than half. They were still focused on healing their injuries. Ji Tianqing did not disturb them. He meditated and cultivated under the sacred tree, silently recovering his divine power. Although he had only suffered minor injuries in the previous battle, he had used up a lot of his divine power. After the battle, he did not recuperate. Instead, he spent another month setting up the formation. No matter how strong his willpower was, he could not take it anymore. He felt tired. Therefore, he first recuperated for 3 months. He recovered to his peak condition and healed his injuries. Then, he began to count the spoils of war. He stored the 150 Godhead fragments separately. He would need them later on for his cultivation. The main objects of inventory were the hundreds of spatial rings and the resources moved from the 2 treasure vaults. The owners of the hundreds of spatial rings were all godly king experts. They were either the leaders of first-rate forces, the sect masters, or the masters of various regions. In short, each of them held great power and controlled a large amount of wealth and resources. Naturally, these spatial rings also stored a large amount of cultivation resources and treasures. Ji Tianqing used 2 days to count the hundreds of spatial rings and put the resources and treasures into his own spatial ring. It was difficult to calculate the exact value of these resources and treasures. However, after a rough estimate, there were at least 30 trillion. The value of the 2 treasure vaults in the Xuanji Grotto was close to 70 trillion. Therefore, Ji Tianqing's wealth and resources exceeded 100 trillion. Chapter 3798. Cultivation resources worth hundreds of trillions of divine stones. This was the most wealth Ji Tianqing had ever obtained in his life. It was the wealthiest moment of his life. He was in a good mood. However, it was just a good mood. He was not too excited about it. After all, he was now an upper godly king. His combat strength was comparable to a peak godly king. He could even fight a peak godly king. At his level, his insight and knowledge were beyond the reach of ordinary godly spirits. As long as he was willing, he could inherit the myriad demon alliance. He could even control the entire Starsource continent and become the master of this continent. Compared to the position of the overlord of the continent, hundreds of trillions of divine stones were nothing. The entire continent was his. He could get as much wealth and resources as he wanted. To him, cultivation resources would become external objects when they reached a certain level. The most important thing was still strength. Therefore, after he checked his spoils of war, he began to refine the Godhead fragments to quickly increase his strength. Borrowing the power of the heaven-mending pearl, 2 white light vortexes appeared in his palms and quickly devoured the Godhead fragments. As time passed, the Godhead fragments were devoured and turned into nothingness. On the other hand, he had obtained a vast amount of divine power, and he had also obtained many divine runes of laws from the quintessence fragments. His strength increased rapidly, and the number of divine Tao laws he condensed increased. Even though he was cultivating in seclusion in the distorted spacetime. He had a mysterious connection with the 9 bends of heaven rivers formation at the entrance of the mysterious grotto. Once an expert attacked the formation or barged into the mysterious grotto, he would be able to sense it. Unfortunately, the 9 bends of heaven rivers formation did not move for a long time. It had been 3 months since the decisive battle between the Myriad Demon Alliance and the mysterious grotto. The process and final result of the decisive battle had spread throughout the Starsource continent. Everyone knew about it. In these 3 months, the entire Starsource continent was in a state of shock and madness. Not only were the forces of the various regions and empires discussing it, but even the common people on the streets and alleys were talking about it. No one could believe that the mysterious grotto that had ruled the Starsource continent for more than 20,000 years was conquered by the Myriad Demon Alliance just like that. In the eyes of the common people, the Xuanji Grotto was a supreme and unparalleled existence. Even though the Myriad Demon Alliance was a super force that had risen to fame in the past 1,000 years, it was still incomparable to the Enigma Paradise, much less a threat to the Enigma Paradise's dominance. Who would have thought that such a ridiculous scene would actually appear? Even though there were various versions of legends and news that were widely spread across the Starsource continent. However, the commoners found it hard to accept this result. They were shocked for a long time before they calmed down. The information that was flying everywhere was enough to reconstruct the process of the 10,000 Demon Alliance's conquest of the Xuanji Paradise. Under the deliberate propaganda of the Myriad Demon League, the people of the entire continent knew that the acting leader of the Myriad Demon League was a peak divine king, a wise and mighty overlord. It was this acting alliance master who had used his wits to break through the Xuanji Grotto's defenses. He had defeated the peak godly kings invited by the Xuanji Grotto. Elder Golden Rock was easier to deal with. According to the news released by the 10,000 Demon Alliance, he was described as a wise man who followed the will of the heavens. However, the Battle Whale Divine King was unlucky. He had become Long Tian's background and a stepping stone for Long Tian's fame. As the news spread, the news that the Myriad Demon League was going to take over the Starsource continent also spread across the continent. Long Tian's unparalleled fame had also become a household name, reverberating like thunder in the ears. After 3 months, the impact of the news of the Myriad Demon League's victory on the commoners gradually weakened. However, one could foresee that it would take at least a few years for the shock to fade away. By then, the wariness and resistance of the territorial lords, the various top forces, and the various major races towards the Myriad Demon League would gradually disappear. Only then would the Myriad Demon League's takeover of the Starsource continent begin gradually. It was not something that could be completed overnight. Ji Tianqing's prediction of 50 years was more logical. Of course, this was based on the assumption that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was eliminated without any accidents. If the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was not eliminated, there would always be a huge threat. With the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's prestige and charisma on the continent, he could easily summon countless forces and experts to help him destroy the Myriad Demon League and take back his position as the overlord. It was because of this that Ji Tianqing had stayed in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven alone to wait for the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's return. At the same time, the Myriad Demon League was also doing their best to investigate and find out more about the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. They had to find out where the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was and when he would return to the Dragon Realm. Also, the Chief of Internal Affairs and the Left and Right Protectors had contacted Alliance leader Luo Ho twice after returning to the Myriad Demon City. They had conveyed the details of the battle and Ji Tianqing's instructions to Alliance leader Luo Ho. Alliance leader Luo Ho also knew the importance of this matter and decided to postpone the matter in the Outer Realm and return to the Dragon Realm to oversee the Myriad Demon League. However, the Starsource continent in the Outer Realm was too far away from the Dragon Realm. Even if he rushed back at full speed, he would not be able to return in a few months. Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion for 8 years in the distorted spacetime and had only managed to refine the 150 quintessence fragments. Now that he had reached the late 7th Heaven God King realm, he had obtained another 80 divine Tao laws from the quintessence fragments. The number of divine Tao laws he grasped thus reached as many as 830 types. Without a doubt, he had gained a lot from his seclusion and his combat strength had increased by 2 times. After finishing his cultivation, Ji Tianqing left the distorted spacetime and patrolled the Xuanji Grotto Heaven again. There was nothing unusual about the entrance of the Grotto Heaven and the interior of the Grotto Heaven. In the past few months, no one had infiltrated the Xuanji Grotto Heaven and no one had dared to attack the entrance. At this moment, apart from Ji Tianqing, there were only endless cultivation resources and natural treasures in the Xuanji Wonderland. He was slightly disappointed and prayed silently in his heart that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor would return soon and stop wasting time. This was the only way he could get rid of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor as soon as possible. After getting rid of this huge problem, the Myriad Demon League would be able to smoothly take over the Starsource continent. At that time, he could leave with peace of mind and head to other continents to continue his search for Wu Hen. After patrolling the Grotto Heaven for 3 days, Ji Tianqing returned to the secret chamber in the Celestial Palace and entered the distorted spacetime to continue his seclusion. This time, he would use up a huge amount of cultivation resources and divine pills to comprehend and deduce the heaven-punishing divine skill in order to strengthen his foundation of the divine Tao and improve his mystique skills. If possible, he wanted to break through to the 8th Heaven God King realm. If he could break through to the 8th Heaven God King realm before the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor returned, he would have a greater chance of defeating the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Chapter 3799. Time passed quickly in the Xuanji Utopia. It was quiet and dull. Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret chamber of the Divine Palace. He was trying his best to strengthen his foundation and break through to the 8th level of the Divine King realm. At the same time, he was waiting for news from the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Unfortunately, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor had not made a move even though he was getting closer and closer to the 8th level of the Divine King realm. At the same time, the 3,000 soldiers of the Myriad Demon Alliance were recovering in seclusion in the Myriad Demon City and their various branches. The Myriad Demon Alliance had won the battle a few months ago. However, they had also suffered a huge blow. They had lost too many experts and were greatly weakened. In the past few months, the Myriad Demon Alliance had been recuperating and did not take the opportunity to expand their forces and territory. This was Ji Tianqing's intention. The Chief of Internal Affairs and the Left and Right Protectors understood his intentions and supported this decision. After all, as long as the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was not eliminated, the Myriad Demon Alliance would return sooner or later even if they took over the entire continent. Therefore, it was better for them to recuperate and gradually take over the entire continent after the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was eliminated. Of course, this was only part of the reason. The more important reason was that the Starsource continent was still in a period of turmoil. The news of the Myriad Demon Alliance conquering the Xuanji Utopia was still widely spread and discussed. The shock and astonishment of the billions of people had yet to be calmed down. The Myriad Demon Alliance's intelligence organization had investigated. Most people thought that this was a chaotic situation. The change of the Overlord would definitely cause chaos on the continent. Therefore, it was not an exaggeration to say that the Starsource continent was in a state of panic. Countless people were worried, and countless forces were on tenterhooks. Furthermore, there were even countless people who were prepared to flee to avoid disaster. This was because everyone believed that the Myriad Demon Alliance conquering the Xuanji Utopia was only the beginning of a great war. When the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor returned and gathered his forces to launch a counterattack, the real war would begin. The people did not care who won or lost. They were only afraid that the flames of war would spread across the entire continent and affect them. Of course, there were also many experts and factions who were hesitating and observing the situation. They did not belong to any faction, but they wanted to obtain the corresponding status and benefits from this unprecedented war. There were also some subordinate forces of the abstruse Grotto Heaven and the old subordinates of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. They were currently hiding in grief, but they were secretly colluding with each other. Naturally, they were unwilling to admit defeat. They were still thinking of ways to preserve their strength and wait for the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor to return so that they could make a comeback. Naturally, the 10,000 Demon Alliance was not idle either. The elites who had participated in the battle were indeed in seclusion to heal their wounds. However, the other 20,000 plus alliance members who did not participate in the war had become extremely busy in the past few months. Other than the normal operations of the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they had to carry out a lot of missions. For example, investigating the whereabouts and news of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was a top priority. Another example was investigating the forces and experts who were extremely loyal to the Xuanji Grotto and couldn't bear to part with them, and secretly eliminating and assassinating them. Another example would be to drive a wedge between the factions that belonged to the Xuanji Utopia, but were only interested in survival and profit, and did not have much loyalty. In addition, he also had to persuade and pacify those fence-sitters who were swaying left and right. The 10,000 Demon Alliance would use all kinds of methods to pacify them, regardless of whether they were first-rate forces or godly king experts. If they could be recruited into the 10,000 Demon Alliance, that would be the best. Even if they could not be recruited into the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they had to ensure that these fence-sitters would not side with the Xuanji Grotto and go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Of course, there was one more thing that the 10,000 Demon Alliance had been carrying out. That was to create rumors and deliberately spread all kinds of opinions. Ao Jining had always been in charge of this. He was very familiar with this kind of work. Before the 10,000 Demon Alliance attacked the Xuanji Grotto, Ao Jining had already done something similar. His goal was to manipulate public opinion and stir up the discussion of countless people on the continent, as well as achieve the effect of propaganda and bewitchment. To put it simply, he wanted to brainwash the billions of people so that they would gradually accept the 10,000 Demon Alliance as the ruler of the Starsource continent. Moreover, he wanted to smear and weaken the image of the Xuanji Grotto, lowering the prestige of the Xuanji Grotto in the hearts of the people. These were only some of the things that the 10,000 Demon Alliance had been doing in the past few months. There were many more complicated things that could not be explained in a few words. Fortunately, the 10,000 Demon Alliance had enough members and recruited the elites of all walks of life. They were good at all kinds of tasks. Ji Tianqing, the left and right protectors, the general manager of internal affairs, the elders, and the others only needed to discuss the countermeasures and issue orders. If they were asked to do these trivial things in person, there was no telling how many years it would take to finish them. All in all, the 10,000 Demon Alliance was not expanding, not waging war, and not in a hurry to take over the Starsource continent. However, the 10,000 Demon Alliance was not doing nothing. They were still actively preparing and paving the way for the takeover of the Starsource continent. Although Ji Tianqing was far away in the Xuanji Grotto, he had made a plan long ago. He asked the left and right protectors, Wu Xinyue, Ao Jining, and the others to act according to the plan. Ao Jining was in charge of collecting information and carrying out assassinations. Hu Xinyue was in charge of appeasing and buying people's hearts. The left and right protectors were in charge of destroying the forces that were very loyal to the Xuanji Grotto. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner. If the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor appeared, Ji Tianqing would naturally deal with him and think of a way to eliminate him. If the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor did not appear, then as time passed, the hearts and minds of the people on the Starsource continent would change. Perhaps after 10 or 8 years, the people's hearts would no longer be with the Xuanji Grotto, but the 10,000 Demon Alliance. At that time, even if the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor returned to the Starsource continent, it would be impossible for him to gather his former subordinates and launch a counterattack against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. This was Ji Tianqing's plan. He was preparing for both sides so that the 10,000 Demon Alliance could smoothly rise to power. Unknowingly, an entire year had passed in the turmoil of the Starsource continent. In this entire year, the undercurrents of the Starsource continent were surging. The situation was very chaotic and complicated. However, under the secret control of the 10,000 Demon Alliance, no major chaos occurred. There were no wars or large-scale massacres. However, many forces and experts had quietly left the Starsource continent to seek shelter in other places. This was something that no one could avoid. There were also many forces and God King experts who could not resist the temptation of the 10,000 Demon Alliance and changed their allegiance to the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Other than that, a few forces that belonged to the Xuanji Grotto and were extremely loyal to the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor disappeared without anyone noticing. There was no doubt that it was the 10,000 Demon Alliance who did it. Everyone knew that once the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor returned, those forces would definitely respond to the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's orders and launch a counterattack against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Since that was the case, the 10,000 Demon Alliance naturally had to eliminate them as soon as possible to prevent future disasters. However, the 10,000 Demon Alliance purposely concealed the news to prevent this elimination of dissidents from causing panic among the people. Chapter 3800. After a year, the shock and fear that the myriad Demon Alliance had brought to the people of Xuanji Grotto Heaven had finally faded. In this year, the Star Source continent seemed to be relatively peaceful. The unrest had gradually subsided. However, there were many things that the commoners did not notice that were secretly changing. Even the thoughts of hundreds of millions of ordinary people were subtly influenced. To everyone's knowledge, the myriad Demon Alliance was on par with Xuanji Grotto Heaven. They were qualified to rule the Star Source continent. The people, empires, and forces were no longer afraid of the myriad Demon Alliance taking over the Star Source continent. These subtle changes did not seem to have much effect. However, this meant that there would not be any major problems when the myriad Demon Alliance took over the Star Source continent in the future. In the Divine Palace in the mountains of Xuanji Grotto Heaven, Ji Tianqing left the distorted space and ended his 45 years of secluded cultivation. That's right. A year had passed in the outside world, but he had been in seclusion in the Divine Pagoda for more than 40 years. Hard work paid off. After this seclusion, he had used more than 200 billion worth of cultivation resources and finally achieved his goal. He had successfully broken through to the 8th level of the Divine King realm. He had also perfected the 5th level of the heaven-punishing divine art. His combat strength had increased by several folds, and his foundation of the divine Tao was very firm. Now, he was even more confident in fighting the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Swoosh! After leaving the Divine Palace in the mountains, he stepped into the sky and rushed to the exit of Xuanji Grotto Heaven. After staying in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven for a year, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor had not appeared. He was finally tired of waiting. After staying in the Divine Palace for so long, he wanted to go out for a walk and settle old scores with someone. Soon, he left the Xuanji Grotto Heaven through the great formation of 9 bends of heaven. After crossing the peak of Heavenly Crane Mountain, he flew north at lightning speed. He thought to himself, it's been a year. If that guy has already left the Star Source continent, I'll just let it go. If he's still thinking that he can escape this calamity, then I'm sorry. After thinking for a while, he took out a communication jade slip, intending to ask Ao Jinying about the situation. After all, Ao Jinying had the ability to gather information and was more familiar with the situation. After sending out the message, Ji Tianqing continued on his way. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled thousands of miles to the north. Soon, half an hour had passed, and Ao Jinying also sent back a message. Ji Tianqing took the jade slip and read it. He frowned and sneered. Hee. I guessed it right. But this guy is interesting. After muttering to himself, he put away the jade slip and continued on his way. The Nebula Cave was as calm and peaceful as ever. Even though the 10,000 Demon Alliance's invasion of the Xuanji Grotto Heaven had shaken the Star Source continent for a year, the Star Source continent was still in turmoil. However, during this year, the Nebula Paradise remained closed, as if it was isolated from the rest of the world. The Patriarch and elders of the Cheongqi clan did not contact any forces in the outside world, nor did they get involved in the conflicts between the 10,000 Demon League and the Xuanji Paradise. It was as if no matter who was in charge of the Star Source continent, it had nothing to do with the Cheongqi clan. The entrance to the Nebula Cave had always been closed, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. A year ago, when Patriarch Xue Shang returned, he even ordered the construction of 2 more divine arrays to reinforce the seal of the entrance. More than 4,000 Cheongchi clan members thought that Patriarch Xueshang had made up his mind to avoid worldly affairs and had decided to cultivate in seclusion. This puzzled many of the clan members, and they discussed and complained in private. Many young experts thought that the situation in the Starsource continent was chaotic, and it was a good opportunity to seize benefits and make a fortune. If Patriarch Xueshang could use some ingenious methods, he would be able to benefit the Cheongchi clan greatly. Those young experts thought so, and they spread the word and persuaded him everywhere in the clan. After a few months of preparation and development, nearly half of the clan members agreed with this idea. They joined forces and asked the Patriarch to open the entrance to the Nebula Cave, so that the Cheongchi clan could join the chaos and take advantage of the situation. However, the proposal of many clan members was rejected by Xueshang. Not only that, Xueshang was furious and severely punished several deacons and young experts who took the lead in stirring up trouble. After this incident, the clan members knew Xueshang's determination, and no longer mentioned taking advantage of the situation. They all stayed in the Nebula Cave and cultivated. Everyone thought that the Patriarch wanted to stay out of trouble and wait for changes. Only a few elders knew that Patriarch Xueshang was not waiting for the best price. He was waiting for the battle between the Myriad Demon Alliance and the Xuanji Cave to end before deciding his position. Instead, Patriarch Xueshang was very anxious. He was worried every day and could not eat or sleep well. Although he claimed to the clan members that he had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret chamber. But in fact, Xueshang had only rested for a month. After he recovered to his peak state, he had not cultivated for a day. He could not calm down and cultivate at all. He was always frowning and worried about the future of the Cheongchi clan. The elders were puzzled and asked Xueshang many times what was going on that made him so worried. At first, Xueshang was hesitant, and he was not willing to disclose other things. After 2 or 3 months, Xueshang finally revealed the truth, probably because he could not bear the pressure and mental torture. It turned out that when the Myriad Demon Alliance attacked the Xuanji Cave, he had secretly joined the Xuanji Cave without telling his clan members and formed a grudge with the Myriad Demon Alliance. The elders finally understood that Xueshang was afraid of the Myriad Demon Alliance's revenge. They were all smart people. Some things did not need to be discussed. For example, after the Myriad Demon Alliance took over the Xuanji Cave, it seemed that they did not do anything. They did not expand their forces and eliminate their opponents. However, the Myriad Demon Alliance did it to stabilize the people's hearts. It did not mean that after the situation stabilized, they would not eliminate their enemies. With what Xueshang had done to the Myriad Demon Alliance, the Myriad Demon Alliance would definitely settle the score. Therefore, Xueshang and the elders stayed in the secret chamber to discuss countermeasures. Someone suggested that Xueshang take the Cheongchi clan to abandon the Nebula Cave and escape from the Starsource continent. With the strength of the Cheongchi clan, even if they went to other continents, they would be able to make a name for themselves. However, this suggestion was rejected by Xueshang and the elders. The Cheongchi clan had occupied the Nebula Cave for more than 20,000 years. They had long regarded this place as their home, and all their forces and properties were in the surrounding areas. Leaving their home to other continents would be difficult and dangerous, and they would have to start from scratch. Not only did Xueshang and the elders not want to give up the Nebula Cave, but the thousands of clan members would also not agree. Soon, another elder suggested that they submit to the Myriad Demon Alliance and apologize for what happened before, hoping to be forgiven by the Myriad Demon Alliance. Of course, this was only a temporary measure to resolve the grudge between the Cheongchi clan and the Myriad Demon Alliance. They would not really join the Myriad Demon Alliance. Xueshang thought about it for a few days and actually agreed to this suggestion. He personally wrote a letter to the Myriad Demon Alliance, sending gifts, apologizing, and asking for peace. Chapter 38:01. If it had been Battle Dragon King or Qinyu, they would never have chosen such a method. They were more decisive and had a kind of black and white characteristic. If they offended a certain force, there would only be two results. Either they would destroy that force and survive. If they could not afford to offend that force, they would retreat and escape. Even if there was a third result, they would join a stronger force and use it to destroy the enemy. Xueshang had offended the 10,000 Demon Alliance, but still thought that he could resolve the hatred and take the initiative to make peace with the 10,000 Demon Alliance. He would definitely be despised by Battle Dragon King and Qinyu. But they were not Xueshang. They could not understand Xueshang's complicated feelings, and their style was different from Xueshang's. To be precise, Xueshang was a sinister and despicable guy. He was scheming, but he always wanted to take advantage of both sides and sit on the fence, trying to gain benefits from it. As for dignity, hot-bloodedness, and integrity, he did not care. In his opinion, as long as it involved benefits, there was nothing that could not be resolved. There was no hatred that could not be resolved. After all, there was no blood feud between him and the 10,000 Demon Alliance. He carefully thought about it for a month and found a problem. Since he became enemies with Long Tian, he had been abused and suffered heavy losses. Long Tian and the 10,000 Demon Alliance did not suffer any losses. He did not offend the 10,000 Demon Alliance, and after he was forced by Long Tian to make a heavenly oath, he never attacked Long Tian again. Therefore, he felt that there was still room for reconciliation. With this idea, he sent the second elder to the 10,000 Demon Alliance with gifts and a letter written by him to apologize. The result was as he expected. The 10,000 Demon Alliance's general manager, protector, and great elder did not receive the second elder, nor did they accept the apology. But Xueshang was not discouraged. After a month, he sent the second elder to the 10,000 Demon Alliance again to apologize. This time, he still brought a letter written by him, and the gifts he brought were doubled. As a result, the second elder met Great Elder Hu Xinyue and also expressed his intention. However, Hu Xinyue neither accepted the gifts nor the second elder's apology, nor did she have the intention to reconcile. But Xueshang was not angry. Instead, he felt that there was some progress and he saw the hope of reconciliation. Thus, he sent the second elder a third time, a fourth time, and a fifth time to apologize. Every month, the second elder would make a trip to the 1,000 Demon City with heavy gifts. However, the 10,000 Demon Alliance never accepted the gifts, nor was it willing to compromise. The exit was a spatial door that was 1,000 feet tall. It was flashing with a dazzling white light and fluctuating constantly. The divine light shield that had a radius of 10,000 feet was also trembling violently and shaking. Obviously, someone was attacking the sealing divine array outside the nebula paradise with all his might. The hundreds of guards guarding the exit stared at the blazing white light gate without blinking. They looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Everyone looked serious. They held their divine weapons in their hands and accumulated divine power in their bodies. They were ready to fight at any time. Although they had not seen who was bold enough to attack the Nebula Paradise's sealing divine array. However, the guards knew that the enemy was definitely one of the best among the supreme gods. After all, the sealing divine array was a superior king level 1. It had been strengthened by clan leader Xueshang himself. This person could shake the sealing divine array. He was definitely not weak. Most importantly, everyone knew that the Dao Xingyan Paradise was the Qiongqi tribe's nest. Since the enemy dared to attack the Nebula Paradise, it meant that they did not take the Qiongqi tribe seriously. Thinking of this, the hundreds of guards became even more nervous. Bam! 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 As the sealing divine array trembled violently, a series of muffled sounds could be heard. Soon, the guards saw with their own eyes that the divine light shield that had a radius of 10,000 feet started to shatter and collapse. The spatial door that was 1,000 feet tall was also flashing with white light. It was as if something was about to come out. Retreat. Everyone, retreat. Sensing that the sealing divine array was about to be broken, the guard commander hurriedly ordered the guards to retreat. Just as expected. Once the guards retreated to about 10 miles away, the divine light shield exploded with a loud boom. At the same time, the spatial door flashed with white light. A figure wrapped in golden light forcefully charged through the door. Swoosh! In the next moment, the white-robed figure passed through the spatial door and entered the nebula paradise. The gazes of over 100 guards were focused on the white-robed young man. Their nerves were tense. Chapter 3802. The white-robed youth was from the Dragon Clan. He was very handsome and mighty. His strength and realm could not be seen, but he revealed an unfathomable aura. He had one hand behind his back and the other holding a pitch-black divine sword. He swept his gaze across the many guards expressionlessly. Then, he ignored the hundreds of guards and looked into the depths of the grotto heaven with a calm expression. His expression and reaction made the guard commander's expression even more solemn. He secretly cursed in his heart. As the guard commander, the other party barged in so rudely. He had to take action to stop him. But he understood that with his strength as a low-level divine king, he probably could not even take one move from the other party and would die on the spot. If he did not fulfill his duty, he would definitely be severely punished by the clan rules. If he fulfilled his duty, he would be killed on the spot. The guard commander was in a dilemma. His expression was extremely ugly, and his heart was in his throat. Fortunately, the white-robed youth did not make a move. It was as if he was waiting for something. Of course, the guard commander would not take the initiative to make a move. He was in a deadlock with the other party, silently praying that the clan leader would come quickly. In his opinion, a powerhouse like the white-robed youth, most likely only the clan leader could deal with it. Not long later, a guard shouted with joy, "Lord Clan Leader is here." The guard commander and everyone hurriedly turned their heads and saw in the sky in the depths of the grotto heaven, several divine lights sped over. In a few breaths' time, those few divine lights came close and stopped above the heads of the many guards. The divine lights faded. The figures of the clan leader, Xueshang, and 4 elders appeared in front of everyone. Seeing these 5 powerhouses come, the guard commander secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Sure enough, when Xueshang saw the white-robed youth at the entrance, his pupils constricted first, then he revealed a trace of a bitter smile. He did not panic and concealed his emotions very well. He ordered in a dignified tone, "All of you, withdraw. This is my esteemed guest. Don't be rude to esteemed guests." Although, no one believed this sentence. Even the simple-minded guards also did not believe that the white-robed youth would be the clan leader's esteemed guest. But the clan leader definitely had a deeper meaning for saying so. Therefore, the guard commander still acknowledged the order and withdrew with close to 100 guards. Just like this, only the white-robed youth, Xueshang, and the 4 elders were left at the entrance. The 4 elders sized up the white-robed young man, their eyes full of vigilance. Suddenly, someone guessed something, and his expression changed immediately. He secretly transmitted a message to his companion, "This person is Long Tian." Ji Tianqing didn't dwell on this question and asked again, "Looking at your actions today, you want to use your life in exchange for the survival of the Qiongqi clan? This is my last resort. I hope you can help me." Xueshang said with a serious face, "Just treat it as me begging you." Ji Tianqing sneered and shook his head, "It's no use begging me. I can't promise you. As for whether or not I want to eliminate the Qiongqi clan, it's up to them." Without waiting for him to finish, Xueshang said firmly, "I've already left a will. They are not allowed to take revenge for me, and they are not allowed to become enemies with the Myriad Demon Alliance." Ji Tianqing smiled, "You've thought it through. Unfortunately, after you die, it's hard to say whether they will listen to your orders." Xueshang didn't deny this, but his expression and eyes were a little bitter. After a moment of silence, he looked at Ji Tianqing and asked bitterly, Long Tian, because of Tao Yongxing of the Taotai clan, I provoked you. But I asked myself, you have always had the upper hand, and I have been defeated time and time again, but I have never really harmed the interests of you and the Myriad Demon Alliance. There is no blood feud between us, and I have already backed down to this point. Can't we reconcile? I've already sworn a heavenly oath that I will never attack you in this life. Do you really want to kill me? Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly, you have been asking for peace with the Myriad Demon Alliance, and I already know about it. But it's useless. You should have thought of this when you joined the Xuanji Grotto. Although you've already sworn a heavenly oath that you will not attack me, it doesn't mean that you won't threaten the Myriad Demon Alliance. It's impossible for me to trust someone as treacherous and cunning as you. So, you can only die. Ha! I understand. After confirming that there was no way out, Xueshang didn't have any hope. He sneered bitterly, you want to kill me, and I can't fight back because of the heavenly oath. I can only take it. Also, even if you kill me, the Cheongqi clan may not be able to survive, right? Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Chapter 3803. If someone who did not know the truth heard Xueshang's words, they would feel extremely wronged and resentful. Yes, because of the heavenly oath, he could not fight back even if Ji Tianqing wanted to kill him. Even if he sacrificed his own life, he could not guarantee the survival of the Cheongqi tribe. However, he could not fight back against Ji Tianqing and the 10,000 Demon Alliance. No matter how one looked at it, he would die of grievance. However, in reality, those who knew the cause and Xueshang's nature did not think there was anything wrong with it. At least, Xueshang deserved to die. He could not blame anyone else. One thing was for sure. If Ji Tianqing did not kill him, Xueshang would definitely attack again when the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor returned and the 10,000 Demon Alliance was in danger. He just couldn't attack Ji Tianqing. It wasn't like he couldn't deal with the Myriad Demon League. Everything Ji Tianqing did was for the 10,000 Demon Alliance to control the Starsource continent. This was exactly what he did not want to see. Therefore, Xueshang had to die. Ha ha ha. In the past year, if I was not afraid of that stupid heavenly oath, I would have been free long ago. Xueshang, who knew that he was going to die, lost his concern and fear. His eyes were red, and he laughed crazily. Ha ha ha. I was afraid of the heavenly Tao and did not dare to try it. Since I'm destined to die, then I'd like to see if the so-called oath to the Tao of the heavens will come true. Will the heavenly Tao, which is said to be omnipresent, care about such a small thing and such a stupid oath? Xueshang laughed as he took out his divine saber, armor, and indestructible golden body. He was also crazily accumulating divine power in his body. His battle intent was high, and he looked up at the sky with a ferocious expression. He released his battle intent without restraint. Ji Tianqing looked at him calmly and slowly raised the sword of burial of heaven. He said, whether the heavenly oath will come true or not, you will not be spared. If you have said your last words, let's begin. As he spoke, the divine power in his body reached its peak, and a strong battle intent burst out from his body. Ah! Go to hell! When Xueshang's divine power condensed to the peak, a surging murderous aura erupted. He let out a loud roar and slashed at Ji Tianqing with his divine saber. He slashed out a few dark red saber lights that were as red as blood. At the same time, Patriarch Cheong Chi's indestructible golden body turned into a dazzling golden light and merged with his body. With the support of the indestructible golden body, his strength had doubled, and his defense was almost invincible. It was precisely because of this that he seemed to have gone mad. He recklessly charged towards Ji Tianqing, bursting forth with an indomitable momentum. Ji Tianqing naturally wouldn't underestimate his opponent. He punched out a dragon elephant divine fist with his left hand, while his right hand waved his sword, creating a sky full of golden light. Sun-shattering sword. Dozens of dazzling golden sword lights collided with Xue Shang's saber lights, causing a series of muffled sounds to erupt. At the same time, the mountain-like dragon-elephant fist shadow also hit Xue Shang. With a loud bang, Xue Shang was sent flying by the punch and smashed into the ground 100 miles away. With the protection of the indestructible golden body, he didn't suffer any substantial damage. However, he was severely shaken, and his divine power was a little chaotic. His aura was also much weaker. He had just smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. Before he could fly back to the sky to counterattack, Ji Tianqing had already taken out the primordial chaos bell and suppressed him from the sky. Swoosh! The 1-foot-tall divine bell instantly expanded by 1 billion times, turning into a sky screen with a radius of 30,000 miles, sealing off the area. The entire space within 30,000 miles was sealed, and it became pitch black. An immense and irresistible force instantly poured down and firmly locked onto Xue Shang. Xue Shang's body suddenly stiffened, and it became very difficult for him to move. His combat power also decreased greatly. Seeing that his surroundings had fallen into darkness, he struggled to fly into the sky and looked around. The primordial chaos bell. You have already refined it. Xue Shang was no stranger to the primordial chaos bell. He immediately recognized it, and his face was filled with shock and anxiety. He knew very well that the primordial chaos bell of the Taotai clan was no weaker than Patriarch Qiong Qi's indestructible golden body. In fact, in a battle, the primordial chaos bell could play a far greater role than the indestructible golden body. Being in the primordial chaos bell, even the power of the indestructible golden body would be weakened. As for his combat power, it would be greatly weakened. As a result, his advantage of having a supreme-grade king-level divine artifact was completely gone. Under the suppression of the primordial chaos bell, he was not confident that he could remain undefeated and undying. Since you know the power of the primordial chaos bell, then you will be killed. Ji Tianqing shouted coldly. Holding the sword of burial of heaven with both hands, he charged toward Xue Shang like a thunderbolt tearing the night sky apart. Xue Shang was shocked and quickly blocked with the divine saber in front of him. Bam! With a muffled sound, Xue Shang was once again sent flying by the sword. He retreated 800 miles and fell into the darkness. The indestructible golden body that had merged with his divine body flashed with golden divine light and emitted the sound of metal rubbing against each other. Seeing that Ji Tianqing did not stop at all in the night sky, he stabbed with the sword again. Xue Shang did not have time to check if the indestructible golden body was damaged. He forcibly mobilized his chaotic divine power and quickly dodged. Clang! The sword light that was as bright as stars brushed past him, but at the critical moment, it changed direction and hit his chest hard. With a loud sound of metal clashing, the violent impact sent Xue Shang tumbling backward. The sword of burial of heaven had also cut a hole in the armor he was wearing. Damn it! Fighting in the primordial chaos bell, my strength is weakened, but he is not affected at all. He is too fast. I can't dodge at all. This thought flashed through Xue Shang's mind, and his heart was both painful and heavy. Although he was protected by the indestructible golden body, Ji Tianqing's movement technique was too fast, and his sword technique was even faster. Every time Ji Tianqing attacked, he could not dodge and could only rely on the indestructible golden body to resist. Once, twice, 3 or 5 times was fine, but if it was more than 100 times, he knew that he would not be able to withstand it. Even if the indestructible golden body could be preserved, he would be covered in wounds and his divine power would be extremely weak. No, I can't just dodge. I have to fight back. Even if I die in battle, even if I am killed, I can't die in such a cowardly way. Xue Shang roared in his heart and made up his mind. Even if he was killed by Ji Tianqing, he would bite off a few pieces of his flesh. When Ji Tianqing swung his sword again, he looked at the sword light that filled the sky and stopped dodging. Instead, he waved his divine saber to meet it. Silent blood soul-breaking slash. Xueshang roared and waved his divine saber with both hands. He used all his strength to slash out 49 blood-colored saber lights. Not only did he explode with his strongest divine power, but he also used more than 150 types of divine power. This was almost his strongest killing move. However, the outcome made him extremely sad and helpless. Bang! Bang bang bang! In the earth-shattering sound, the blood-colored saber lights were all defeated. More than a dozen sword lights hit him, and he was sent flying again, blood spurting out of his 7 orifices. Chapter 3804. The exit of the Nebula Grotto was covered by the primordial chaos bell. Looking from afar, one could only see a gigantic, pitch-black divine belt pressing down on the ground. The 4 elders were ordered to leave by Xueshang, but they did not go far, nor did they return to the Qiongqi clan's lair. They believed that Long Tian came with ill intentions and would definitely harm clan leader Xueshang. Therefore, the 4 of them retreated 50,000 miles and stopped in the sky. They stood high in the sky and used their divine consciousness to observe the situation at the grotto's exit. Unfortunately, they could only see the gigantic divine bell and could not see what was going on inside. Worried, the 4 elders sent a message to their clansmen. Not long after, a large group of deacons and guards rushed over in a hurry. There were also 300 elites of the Hall of Blood Slaughter. They were armed with swords and full of killing intent. These elites of the Hall of Blood Slaughter did not listen to the 4 elders' message. They followed Xueshang's order and went to check the situation at the exit. However, when they encountered the 4 elders, they were stopped by them. Don't go. The clan leader has ordered that no one can interfere. The 2nd elder stopped the elites of the Hall of Blood Slaughter and said to the leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter. The leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter frowned and used his divine consciousness to look at the divine bell at the exit. He asked worriedly, "2nd elder, what's going on? Who is so daring as to attack our nebula paradise?" The 3rd elder replied in a heavy tone, "It's Long Tian of the Myriad Demon Alliance." "What? Long Tian?" The leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter was shocked and said anxiously, "Damn bastard, he actually led the Myriad Demon Alliance to attack our clan. What are we waiting for? Go help the clan leader." As he spoke, the leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter was about to lead 300 elites to the exit to help. The other 2 elders quickly stopped him and explained, "Don't be so agitated. It's only Long Tian who came. He didn't bring any helpers. Also, the clan leader has strictly ordered that we are not allowed to interfere in this matter. He will deal with it alone." The 2nd elder nodded in agreement and said earnestly, "The clan leader said that this is between him and Long Tian. No matter what happens, our clansmen are not allowed to interfere. Otherwise, this matter will become a grudge between our clan and the Myriad Demon Alliance and bring disaster to our clan." At this point, not only were the 300 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall stunned, but the dozen deacons and more than 100 experts were also stunned. How can this be? What grudge is there between the clan leader and Long Tian? The Myriad Demon Alliance dared to attack the Xuanji Grotto and even won. It's obvious how powerful they are. Our clan is no match for them. But if that's the case, wouldn't the patriarch have to sacrifice himself to protect all the disciples of our clan? The hundreds of disciples of the Qiongqi tribe immediately understood Xueshang's intention. Therefore, many people who were worried about Xueshang's safety immediately began to clamor. How can we let the patriarch risk his life while we drag out an ignoble existence? We would rather die in battle than suffer such humiliation. My clansmen, as long as you still have courage, come with me. We will fight side by side with the clan leader. We will not yield to the enemy." Someone raised his arm and shouted. Immediately, the others responded and rushed to the primordial bell of chaos with more than 200 people. Even the commander of the Blood Slaughter Hall ignored Xue Shang's orders and rushed over with 300 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall. The three elders wanted to stop the impulsive clansmen from ruining the clan leader's plan. However, the second elder waved his hand and stopped the three elders. The three elders were filled with anxiety and hurriedly asked him, "Second elder, what are you doing? The clan leader has ordered that no one is allowed to interfere in this matter. Why don't you stop them? They are so reckless. What if they ruin the clan leader's plan? What should we do?" Seeing that the three elders were so anxious, the second elder said earnestly, "Everyone, don't be anxious. How could I not think the same? However, as you can see, our clansmen are hot-blooded. They can't bear to see the clan leader sacrifice himself for the safety of our clan. We can't stop them. If we forcefully suppress them, I'm afraid we will be labeled as cowardly, cold-hearted, and cowardly." The three elders fell silent. They had to admit that the second elder was right. After a while, an elder asked, "What should we do now?" The second elder looked at the exit. His divine sense found that everyone was surrounding the divine bell. He sighed and said, "Now that things have come to this, we can only go and take a look." Thus, the four elders flew across the sky and rushed to the grotto heaven's exit. Soon, the four of them arrived near the divine bell. They saw hundreds of Cheongchi clan experts and Hall of Blood Slaughter elites surrounding the divine bell, observing and discussing. No one could see the situation inside the divine bell, but everyone's face was filled with worry. Everyone knew that Long Tian was an expert who could be compared to a peak divine king. Their clan leader was definitely not Long Tian's match. However, no matter how everyone worried, it was also useless. They could not help at all. Some people who were more impatient took out divine weapons and swords one after another, hacking and slashing wildly at the divine bell. In the end, everyone was tired until they were panting heavily. Divine weapons and swords all collapsed, but the divine bell did not budge an inch. For some time, everyone could only stare at each other, cursing loudly at the divine bell, but they were at a loss on what to do. Seeing the scene become rowdy, many clansmen surged with rage, their behavior somewhat out of control. The second elder hurriedly came forward to suppress it. "Everyone, quiet down. Make sure not to have any rash and impulsive actions, so as to avoid spoiling the clan leader's grand plan. The clan leader and Long Tian are inside the divine bell. We can't see the situation inside and can't help either. Everyone being anxious is also useless. Rather than that, everyone might as well conserve energy and wait patiently for the result. You all have to believe in the clan leader's ability. Since he has the confidence, he can definitely resolve it smoothly." Following the second elder's voice spreading all around, many anxious and frenzied clansmen gradually calmed down. Through several elders' pacification and persuasion again, the scene finally recovered calm. Several hundred people surrounded the divine bell's surroundings, patiently waiting for the result. This was also something that could not be helped. After all, the struggle between pinnacle divine king powerhouses was not what these divine lords could intervene in. Time passed by silently. After 15 minutes, the divine bell suddenly shrunk 1,000,000,000,000 times and flew back in front of Ji Tianqing. The massive shadow that was like the canopy of the sky finally disappeared. The world within a radius of 30,000 miles appeared in front of everyone once more. But when everyone saw the scene inside clearly, they were stunned on the spot. It was only to see the area within a radius of 30,000 miles become scorched earth. The earth was covered with ravines and deep pits. There were still remnants of horrifying divine power undulations. Above the ruins, there was only a handsome and valiant youth in white robes. There was no trace of Xue Shang. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 3805. Ji Tianqing stood above the ruins, holding the burial of heaven sword in his hand, safe and sound. Xue Shang, on the other hand, had disappeared. Apparently, he had turned into ashes and completely died. This result was destined from the beginning. That year, before Ji Tianqing became a high-level god king, he could fight Xue Shang to a draw, or even slightly better. Now that he was an 8th-stage god king, he could even defeat a peak god king, so killing Xue Shang was naturally not a problem. When he killed Xue Shang, he did not even use his 2 trump cards, Absolute Shadows and Sword of Annihilation. The reason why it took 15 minutes was that the indestructible golden body was more difficult to deal with. If it were not for the indestructible golden body's defense being too strong, Ji Tianqing could kill Xue Shang within 10 moves. What was worth mentioning was that Ji Tianqing's method of killing Xue Shang mainly relied on soul attacks. It was very difficult for ordinary spells to break the defense of the indestructible golden body. Even if Ji Tianqing had already killed Xue Shang, the indestructible golden body was actually only damaged and not destroyed. Before putting away the primordial chaos bell, Ji Tianqing had already cleaned up the battlefield. Xue Shang turned into ashes and merged into the ruins. His godhead fragments, interspatial ring, and indestructible golden body were all put into Ji Tianqing's interspatial ring. Ji Tianqing pondered that he would have to find time to repair the damaged indestructible golden body in the future. It could also be used as a trump card. After all, it was a king-level divine artifact. For elders, 300 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall, and hundreds of experts of the Cheongqi clan swept their eyes across the ruins of the battlefield and finally gathered on Ji Tianqing. There was no need for Ji Tianqing to say anything, everyone already knew the result. Immediately, anger and sadness spread among the crowd, filling everyone's heart. Many people's eyes turned red with blood, and flames of anger burst out of their bodies, exuding blazing killing intent. Some people clenched their weapons, and the divine power in their bodies crazily accumulated, ready to burst out a fatal blow at any time. The 300 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall moved their feet and silently formed an encirclement around Ji Tianqing. Although there was no sound in the field, the atmosphere was particularly solemn and somber. Raging anger and killing intent were brewing, and it was about to erupt. However, Ji Tianqing, who was in the eye of the storm, was not worried at all. In fact, he didn't even care about these hundreds of people. His expression was calm as he said, "There's no need to guess. Your clan leader, Xue Shang, has already been killed by this king. Just now, he had ordered the elders to strictly forbid anyone from interfering in this matter. Furthermore, he had left a will that forbade the people of the Cheongqi tribe from avenging him or becoming enemies with the 10,000 Demon Alliance. This is Xue Shang's order. Now that he is dead, you can choose to obey or disobey." Everyone was already filled with grief and indignation, and his words had undoubtedly added fuel to the fire, causing everyone to be even more furious. However, he didn't care at all and continued, "I believe you also understand why Xue Shang did this. He wanted to sacrifice himself to protect the people of the Cheongqi tribe. Before he died, he even begged this king to spare the Cheongqi tribe. This was because he knew that it would be easy for this king and the 10,000 Demon Alliance to exterminate the Cheongqi tribe. However, this king did not agree to his request. Whether or not to destroy the Cheongqi tribe is up to this king. Of course, it also depends on your performance." Ji Tianqing's tone was very relaxed and indifferent. There wasn't a trace of guilt, anger, or overbearingness in his voice. It was as if he was describing an unrelated matter. After he finished speaking, he stood with his sword and didn't say anything else. Obviously, he had given the Cheongqi tribe the choice. It was up to them whether they would live or be destroyed. The leader of the Blood Slaughter Hall was the most loyal to Xue Shang. When he heard Ji Tianqing's words, he could no longer suppress his anger and immediately roared. "Long Tian! The Cheongqi tribe will never forgive you. Others may be afraid of you and the 10,000 Demon Alliance, but I'm not afraid of you." With the leader of the Blood Slaughter Hall taking the lead, a few deacons and many other tribe members immediately responded. Many people were filled with righteous indignation and cursed furiously. Long Tian, you bastard, not only did you kill our leader, but you're also showing off here. Do you really think the Cheongchi tribe is a coward? Even if we die here, we won't be humiliated by you. Brothers, let's attack together and fight it out with him. As the roars, and curses rang out, everyone's emotions and hot blood were ignited. Nearly 400 Kenshin soldiers waved their swords and roared as they charged toward Ji Tianqing, releasing an overwhelming number of swords and sabers. Immediately, the flames of war rose from the ruins, and killing intent soared to the sky. The four elders' faces changed immediately, and they anxiously shouted, wanting to stop the crowd. Of course, they knew that the rash actions of these 400 tribe members would lead to a disaster. However, it was too late for them to stop them. Those 400 people were on the verge of madness and did not listen to any advice. Ji Tianqing was about to be drowned by the sword and saber light that blotted out the sky. At this moment, the center of the battlefield, under the swords and sabers, suddenly released a dazzling golden sword light that soared into the sky like a blazing sun. Bang! 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 Hundreds of divine sword lights, carrying the mighty power of laws, bloomed in the sky like a blazing sun, illuminating the earth. The attacks of the 400 Cheongchi tribe members were like ice and snow, quickly melting and dissipating under the blazing sun. With an earth-shattering explosion, dozens of Blood Slaughter Hall elites disappeared on the spot, turning into a rain of blood and dust that fell to the ground. Hundreds of Cheongchi tribe members were also sent flying by the unparalleled power and crashed into the ruins. In the dazzling golden light, Ji Tianqing's figure reappeared, standing proudly high in the sky. His left palm struck out with a mountain-sized dragon-elephant image, and his right hand swung the sword, creating streaks of shooting stars that shot toward the fleeing Cheongchi tribe members. Bang! 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 Boom! Boom! The battlefield was in chaos. The 300 or so Cheongchi tribe members who were lucky enough to survive were thrown off their feet, their flesh and blood flying everywhere. Waves of screams and howls of despair rang out continuously, reverberating through the sky. In just a few seconds, nearly half of the Cheongchi tribe members were killed. The four elders witnessed all this with their own eyes, and they were so frightened that their faces turned pale, and they trembled all over. Of course, it was not just shock, but more anger and fear. They knew that Long Tian was very powerful, comparable to a peak god king. However, they had never seen it with their own eyes, and they were not qualified to exchange blows with Long Tian. Now that they saw it with their own eyes, they knew that Long Tian was actually so powerful. Let alone killing 400 Cheongchi tribe members, even destroying the entire Nebula Grotto heaven with his own strength would not be a problem. At this moment, the four elders suddenly understood Xue Shang's good intentions. They originally had a slight impulse to attack Long Tian together. But now, that impulsive flame had been forcibly extinguished by them. They shouted, "Stop!" While begging Ji Tianqing for mercy, they tried to save the fleeing Cheongchi clansmen. Chapter 3806. This battle erupted suddenly and ended quickly as well. After 10 breaths, the Cheongchi tribe stopped fighting. The remaining 100 or so clansmen were all heavily injured and gathered together to catch their breaths. Many of them were in a sorry state. Their robes were stained with blood, and their hair was disheveled. They glared at Ji Tianqing in the sky. Their eyes were filled with hatred and fear, but no one dared to attack. After all, Ji Tianqing had killed more than 200 experts in just a few breaths. Most of them were the elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall. The surviving Cheongchi tribe members knew that compared to Long Tian, they were like dust compared to a star. For Ji Tianqing, dealing with them was as easy as chopping vegetables. No matter how hot-blooded and fearless they were, there was no need for them to die for nothing. The four elders stood between them and Ji Tianqing. They kept bowing to Ji Tianqing and begging for mercy. Although they looked very humble, sorry, and humiliated, there was nothing they could do. This was the punishment for being impulsive. If they did not beg for mercy, Ji Tianqing would kill them all. The entire nebula cave would be destroyed. For the sake of the big picture and the continuation of the Qiongqi tribe, the four elders could only endure the humiliation and try their best to mediate and make peace. Ji Tianqing looked coldly at the four elders. After a long time, he put away the sword of burial of heaven and said, "Life or death is the choice of the Qiongqi tribe. With the Qiongqi tribe's fierce reputation, even if I kill all of you and destroy the nebula cave, it is only right. However, seeing that Xueshang sacrificed himself to protect you, and that you know what's good for you, I will not send you to reunite with the Taotai tribe." Seeing that he finally put away the sword and promised not to kill the Qiongqi tribe, the four elders felt as if they had been pardoned. They quickly bowed and thanked him. However, this matter was not over yet. Ji Tianqing said, "But I know that the Qiongqi tribe has always been bloodthirsty and good at fighting. If I let you go so easily today, it will be a disaster. In the future, you will definitely become the enemy of the Demon Alliance. Therefore, in order to avoid future troubles, we have to make an agreement." The four elders looked at each other and understood that Ji Tianqing's words were reasonable, so they didn't object to it. In their minds, they were simply being forced to swear that they would not go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance in the future. With the 10,000 Demon Alliance's current power, the Qiongqi clan could not wait to hide. How would they dare to make trouble? Therefore, the four elders did not hesitate and immediately agreed. "Long Tian, don't worry. Patriarch Xueshang left us a dying order. We will certainly obey it and not go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. As long as you let the Qiongqi clan go, it doesn't matter even if we swear an oath. Long Tian, we can swear that we will not go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance, but you have to fulfill your promise and stop harassing us." Ji Tianqing glanced at them and said coldly, "It's not as simple as you think. Take me to your divine palace." The four elders were stunned for a moment. They were a little puzzled, not knowing what Ji Tianqing wanted to do. However, the Qiongqi clan was in a very passive situation now. Their survival was in Ji Tianqing's hands. The four elders had no right to refuse, nor did they have the courage to bargain. They could only obey. Therefore, they took Ji Tianqing and flew into the depths of the grotto heaven. The 100 Qiongqi clan members who were in a sorry state could only follow. Not long after, they returned to the Qiongqi clan's residence. This place was surrounded by mountains in all directions. The divine power of heaven and earth was very rich. Within a radius of 5,000 miles, there were ancient and solemn palaces built on each of the majestic mountains. There were more than 4,000 Qiongqi clan members living in more than 200 palaces and courtyards. In the center of this area, surrounded by many palaces, there was a blood-colored divine palace that was hundreds of feet tall that was the most eye-catching. That was Patriarch Xueshang's residence. It was also the core of the Qiongqi clan, where the records were kept and where they discussed matters. When Ji Tianqing and the four elders flew above the divine palace, a large number of Qiongqi clan members had already gathered around. Not long ago, the news that an enemy had attacked the Nebula Grotto Heaven had spread in the clan. Thousands of Qiongqi clan members were alarmed. They gathered together and discussed worriedly. If it weren't for a few respected elders and 2 elders suppressing them, the Qiongqi clan members would have already charged toward the exit in a grandiose manner. At this moment, the 3,000 Qiongqi clan members were divided into more than a dozen groups. They were discussing and shouting noisily. When they saw Ji Tianqing and the 4 elders return, the Qiongqi clan members quieted down. They looked at Ji Tianqing with hostility. Although they did not know what had happened. However, everyone was extremely wary and hostile towards this young man from the Dragon clan. Soon, the 100 Qiongqi clan members who were in a sorry state returned to the vicinity of the divine palace. When the Cheongchi clan members saw their miserable state, they immediately exclaimed in shock. Many of them asked what had happened. The injured Cheongchi clan members all had expressions of grief and shame. They did not say a word. The heavy and strange atmosphere made the 3,000 Cheongchi clan members uneasy. The discussion in the crowd became louder. Everyone looked at Ji Tianqing with even more hostility. Their eyes were filled with hatred and hostility. Many of the bolder Cheongchi clan members questioned the four elders loudly about what had happened. The four elders were hesitant. Their expressions were ugly. They secretly discussed how to explain and appease the angry Cheongchi clan members. However, before they could come to a conclusion, Ji Tianqing ordered, "Go and call everyone over. Gather them at the square in front of the divine palace. If anyone dares to not come, kill them." The four elders' hearts shook. Their expressions were even uglier. However, they did not dare to refute and could only pass down the order. Under the orders of the elders and a dozen deacons, the 3,000 Cheongchi clan members unwillingly gathered at the square. The square in front of the divine palace was very big. It was at least 1,000 feet wide. There was no problem in accommodating the 4,000 Cheongchi clan members. The patience of the Cheongchi clan members was gradually running out. Their anger and killing intent were becoming more and more undisguised. They could explode at any moment. Many people were roaring and questioning loudly. However, the elders could not explain. Ji Tianqing was also silent and expressionless. Half an hour later, more than 1,000 Cheongchi race clansmen gathered from all directions. The second elder reported to Ji Tianqing, "There are 4,562 people in total. Almost all of our clansmen have gathered." Ji Tianqing turned to look at him and sneered, "Almost all? How many are missing?" The second elder was under great pressure. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead as he replied, "There are still 15 people who are missing." "Huh, missing?" Ji Tianqing sneered and said, "Nebula Paradise has always been sealed. They cannot leave. Since we have not found them, then they must be hiding. However, no matter. This king will deal with them later." Chapter 3807. Of course, the second elder knew what Ji Tianqing meant by "deal with." He was even clearer that the 6 young experts who fled without permission only had the strength of Divine Lord Realm. To Long Tian, killing those 6 young experts was no different from killing a few ants. However, at this moment, the second elder was not in the mood to worry about those 6 people. He was more worried about what Long Tian wanted to do by gathering all the Cheongchi tribe members in the plaza. Before he could think further, he saw Long Tian emit a divine aura that could suppress the heavens and the earth. It enveloped the plaza. Swoosh! All of a sudden, the 4,000 or so Cheongchi clansmen all turned pale and lowered their heads in fear. All the roars, questions, and discussions came to an abrupt end. The plaza that had been noisy a moment ago was now so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Although many Cheongchi tribe members felt humiliated and angry, they could not raise their heads. Under the terrifying divine aura, they could not even raise their heads, let alone make a sound. Then, they heard Ji Tianqing say coldly, "Your tribe leader Xue Shang has been killed by me." Before he died, he left behind his last words. It was the same words as before. He had said it once at the entrance of the grotto heaven. Now, he said it again in front of all the Cheongchi tribe members. The outcome was the same. The 4,000 Cheongchi tribe members felt like they had been struck by lightning. When they heard that Xue Shang had been killed, they were filled with grief and anger. Their eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. If looks could kill, Ji Tianqing would have been cut into pieces. However, he was not afraid at all. He ignored the murderous looks and said indifferently, "To avoid future trouble, all of you have to swear an oath now. Of course, the choice is in your hands whether or not you want to swear an oath. You can resist." As soon as he finished speaking, more than a dozen divine lords struggled to break free from the pressure and shouted angrily, "Long Tian, we are irreconcilable with you. You damn bastard, you killed our tribe leader. We want you to pay with your life. Everyone, don't be afraid. If we all work together, we can definitely kill him." The dozen or so experts were agitated and roared furiously. Ji Tianqing glanced at them indifferently, then raised his right hand and shot out a dozen golden beams. In the next moment, a series of muffled bangs could be heard. The dozen or so divine lord experts exploded in front of everyone, turning into a bloody mist. The sudden deaths and the thick stench of blood greatly irritated the 4,000 Cheong Chi clansmen. Many people became even more furious. They roared like crazy and rushed to Ji Tianqing with resentful eyes. There were even many experts who roared and revealed their true forms, using their Cheong Chi true forms to unleash their strongest power to attack Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's expression didn't change. He didn't even lift his eyelids. He raised his hand again and shot out dozens of sword lights. Swish! Swish! A resplendent golden sword light tore through the air, and in the next instant, the dozens of Cheongqi experts exploded into a bloody mist. A full 46 Divine Lord Realm experts all burst forth with their strongest power under their rage. In the end, he was still unable to block a single attack from Ji Tianqing and was easily killed by him. Moreover, not even his corpse was left behind. Not even a speck of his remains remained. Such a shocking scene filled the 4,000 Cheongqi clansmen with fear. They were scared out of their wits. In an instant, the cursing and roaring on the square weakened a lot. Countless people's ferocious expressions and resentful eyes turned into deep fear. As Cheongqi clansmen, they were naturally bloodthirsty. However, this didn't mean that they were fearless and could ignore death. The bloody reality told them that Long Tian was unimaginably powerful and that they couldn't disobey him. Long Tian could kill them as easily as squashing an ant. Therefore, many Cheongqi clansmen suppressed their anger and stayed where they were, not daring to move. However, there were still more than 100 fearless ironheads who continued to roar and charge at Ji Tianqing. However, a few elders and a dozen deacons rushed over anxiously and chased them back to the square. Those who could be comforted were comforted. Those who couldn't be comforted could only be knocked out on the spot to calm them down. Of course, there were still more than 30 Cheongqi clansmen who charged out of the square fearlessly and charged at Ji Tianqing. However, their outcome was the same as the Cheongqi clansmen before. They were all killed by Ji Tianqing with a raise of his hand and turned into a bloody mist. After a brutal beating, the remaining 4,000 people finally became obedient. In the face of absolute strength, they could only accept their fate and suppress all their anger and humiliation. The elders and deacons took the opportunity to comfort the crowd and explain what happened. In short, the square was noisy for a while before it became quiet again. Ji Tianqing took out a few jade slips and handed them to the 4 elders. He instructed, "This is the model of the oath. Copy it and send it out. Everyone has to recite it." The 4 elders were a little confused and looked at each other. They were just swearing not to go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Did they need a model? However, they didn't dare to disobey Ji Tianqing. They quickly took the jade slips and copied the contents of the jade slips. When they saw the contents of the model oath, they were dumbfounded again. They finally understood why this oath needed a model. There were more than 20 rules and more than 500 words. Normal people couldn't remember them. The 4 elders were very efficient. They quickly made 18 copies of the model oath and handed them to the 18 deacons. Then, they and the 18 deacons stood in the sky and commanded the Cheongqi clansmen on the square to recite the oath one by one. The first batch of 22 Cheongqi clansmen who were forced to swear the oath had wonderful expressions when they received the jade slips and read the contents of the oath. The smart ones knew that this was a heavenly oath. It was very strict and detailed. There was nothing left out. If they really swore such an oath, they would never be able to do anything to the 10,000 Demon Alliance. They couldn't go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance openly, secretly, or even in a roundabout way. If they had any thoughts of going against the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they might even be punished by the heavens. This was too terrifying. However, Ji Tianqing was staring at them from the sky. No one dared to refuse the oath. Everyone knew the consequences of going against Ji Tianqing. Therefore, the 22 Cheongqi clansmen fell silent for a while. Then, they began to recite the oath with a tragic and humiliating mood. Soon, a scene that shocked the thousands of Cheongqi clansmen appeared. After the 22 people recited the oath, their bodies lit up with five-colored divine light and traces of Taoist rhymes. An invisible power of the heavens enveloped the square. Everyone was terrified and in awe. Chapter 3808. The Tao runes and scenes of the 22 Cheongqi tribe members swearing could not be compared to the divine King Warwhale. Even the fluctuations of the power of the heavenly Tao and the scene of the lingering Tao aura seemed much weaker and insignificant. Ji Tianqing guessed that the difference was related to their cultivation level. The heavenly Tao would definitely pay more attention to a peak expert like the divine King Warwhale. The heavenly Tao was already giving them a lot of face by responding to the Cheongqi tribe members. If not for the fact that Ji Tianqing had given them a strict and formal oath, the Cheongqi tribe members would not have been able to elicit a response from the heavenly Tao. The scene of the first batch of Cheongqi tribe members swearing shocked more than 4,000 Cheongqi tribe members and made them even more respectful. Although the square was still quiet and dull, it was obvious that everyone's resistance was much lower. Next, the first batch of Cheongqi tribe members returned to their original positions. The second batch of Cheongqi tribe members flew into the sky and recited the heavenly Tao oath in the jade slip. Ji Tianqing stood in the sky above the square and looked at everything indifferently. As time passed, batch after batch of Cheongqi tribe members swore the heavenly Tao oath, triggering the five-colored divine light and Tao runes. The heavenly Tao power in the sky above the square became denser and denser, making the Cheongqi tribe members more and more respectful. The heavenly Tao today was a little busy. Overall, the collective swearing of the Cheongqi tribe members went smoothly. Most of the Cheongqi tribe members were intimidated by Ji Tianqing's power and could only swear obediently. However, there were still a few Cheongqi tribe members who stubbornly refused to swear. These people were either too young and hot-blooded or too old. The respected elders in the tribe could not bring themselves to do it. In any case, Ji Tianqing did not waste any time and killed them instantly. After this small interlude, the rest of the matter went even more smoothly. Even so, it took 6 hours for all 4,000 Cheongqi clan members to finish swearing their oaths. Ji Tianqing monitored the entire process to ensure that no one was left out. Only after the 18 deacons and 4 elders had sworn their oaths did he turn around and leave. The remaining matters were naturally left to the elders and wardens. The resentment of thousands of clansmen was too great. They still needed to explain and comfort them. Ji Tianqing did not leave the nebula cave. Instead, he searched the cave once more. The 6 Cheongqi clan experts who had fled in advance and were hiding in various places were also found and killed by him. After dealing with these matters, he left the nebula paradise. After the nebula grotto suffered such a calamity, it would definitely be turbulent for a few days before it could calm down. At the same time, the Cheongqi clan lost their clan leader and a large number of elites. They would not be able to recover for the next 1,000 years. Bound by the oath, even if the Qiankis grew stronger in another tens of thousands of years, they would not be able to harm the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Of course, the Cheongqi clan was an ancient sinful clan. It was hard to say if they could survive for tens of thousands of years. No matter how powerful the myriad Demon Alliance was right now, it was still unknown whether it would still exist after tens of thousands of years. At the very least, the Qiankis would not be able to cause any trouble or threaten the 10,000 Demon Alliance in the next few thousand years. Meanwhile, in the southernmost part of the Starsource continent, on an island near the boundless sky sea. Swoosh! 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 More than a dozen dazzling divine lights descended from the sky and landed on the strange rocky island. After the divine lights faded, 18 different-looking divine beings of different races appeared. These 18 powerful divine spirits with unfathomable auras were all divine king realm experts. However, they were not of the demon race. They were of a different race that did not exist in the dragon realm. There was a divine being with blue skin and antennae on top of his head. There was a divine being with a lithe body and a beautiful and noble appearance like that of a fairy. There was also a divine being with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a white Pegasus. There was also a strange divine being with a body that was like a ball of black smoke that was constantly changing. All in all, the 18 God King experts could be divided into 7 different races. The 18 God Kings gathered together, looked at each other, and exchanged a few words through voice transmission. Then, they all flew toward the pile of rocks in the middle of the island. On the surface, this island looked barren. Even the sea beasts and flying birds were not willing to stay here. However, in reality, they had already built a stone cave in the center of the island a month ago and made it look like a palace. And the hidden entrance to the palace was in the pile of rocks. The 18 God Kings came to the pile of rocks. Someone used a divine technique and opened the array at the entrance. Soon, a white spatial door appeared. The 18 God Kings entered in a single file. After a while, they appeared in the center of the island, 3,000 meters underground. The group passed through a man-made tunnel and entered a brightly lit stone cave. Although the stone cave was dug at the last minute, it was decorated magnificently and shone with divine light. The widest stone cave in the center was the main hall where they discussed matters with their master. On the walls on both sides of the main hall, there were more than 20 stone caves. Those were the secret rooms that the group needed to cultivate. When the 18 foreign God Kings stepped into the hall, there were already 7 even more powerful God Kings waiting for them in the discussion hall. Among them, the strongest was a middle-aged man wearing a golden robe and a luxurious divine crown. That person was tall and sturdy. He had a dignified appearance and a golden horn on his forehead. His entire body emitted the aura of a peak expert. Obviously, he was a peak God King from the dragon race. If there were any experts from the Starsource continent here, they would definitely recognize that this person was the ruler of the continent, the Gold Source Dragon Emperor. The Gold Source Dragon Emperor sat on a throne inlaid with divine gold and jade. The other 6 God Kings stood below the steps in front of the throne. These 6 God Kings were even stronger. All of them were high-level God Kings. There was even an old man wearing a purple robe with 2 antlers on his head. He was at the 9th level of the God King realm. These God Kings came from different races and were all arrogant and unruly. However, they bowed down to the Gold Source Dragon Emperor and were extremely respectful. Greetings, Dragon Emperor. The 18 God Kings stepped into the main hall. They lined up in a row and bowed in unison. The Gold Source Dragon Emperor was expressionless. However, deep in his eyes, there was worry and anger. He nodded slightly and said, "Everyone, please dispense with the formalities. Let's talk about the results of this trip." Thus, 6 of the 18 foreign race God Kings walked out and reported the news one by one. Reporting to the Dragon Emperor. We went to the Anlin region to investigate for a few days and found that the Black Heaven sect had been destroyed. Everyone was killed. Reporting to the Dragon Emperor. Our investigation in the 7 Stops region also yielded the same results. The Qi clan was destroyed half a year ago. Those who were lucky enough to survive have fled the Starsource continent. Reporting to the Dragon Emperor, after the 6 God Kings finished reporting, the Gold Source Dragon Emperor frowned deeply. His expression became even more gloomy. These 6 factions were all my trusted subordinates back in the day. They were the ones I nurtured with great care. Previously, I didn't understand why they didn't respond when I sent them a message after returning. I didn't expect my guess to be right, that damned Myriad Demon Alliance. We should have destroyed them long ago. Chapter 3809. There was no doubt that the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor had returned to the Dragon Realm a month ago. However, he did not descend on the Starsource continent as the people had expected. Instead, he raised his arms and shouted for revenge against the Myriad Demon Alliance. Tens of thousands of people responded and countless experts followed him. That was only a fantasy. It would not happen in reality. Even though he was the overlord of the continent, his prestige had been deeply rooted in the people's hearts for more than 20,000 years. However, the situation had changed. The winds in the Starsource continent had changed as well. Long before the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's return, the Myriad Demon Alliance had secretly made many arrangements to change the people's hearts and public opinion. They had also gotten rid of many of the mystical Grotto Heaven's hidden tricks. Of course, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor was not a reckless person. When his main body was still in outer space, he had already received news that the mystical Grotto Heaven had been conquered. Therefore, when he rushed back to the Dragon Realm to seek revenge, he had brought back a large group of experts with him. The 24 foreign race godly kings in the main hall were all his trusted subordinates that he had recruited and subdued in outer space. This was especially so for the purple-robed elder with a pair of deer horns on his head. He was the overlord of a certain starfield and had been subdued by the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor through various means. Over the past 900 years, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor had built up a powerful force in outer space. It was not as simple as just sightseeing. Other than these 24 foreign race godly kings, the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor also had a small world in his divine sword. There were thousands of elite godly monarch experts in it. Even though he had such a powerful force, he did not reveal himself after returning to the Starsource continent. He hid on this barren island in the South Sea and first contacted the 6 forces that were most loyal to him. In the end, he waited bitterly for half a month, but there was no reply from the 6 forces. The 18 foreign race godly kings he sent out had gathered a lot of information on the Starsource continent. Most of it was related to the mystical Grotto Heaven and the Myriad Demon Alliance. Through the thousands of pieces of information, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor summarized them and learned about the details of what had happened. At the same time, he also guessed the Myriad Demon Alliance's backup plan. Therefore, he was even more determined to not reveal himself for revenge unless he gathered enough loyal subordinates and a strong enough force. Since there was no reply from the 6 forces, he could only send 18 foreign god kings to the 6 forces personally to investigate and find out the truth. Unfortunately, these 18 godly kings were not familiar with the Starsource continent, so it was inconvenient for them to act. After half a month, they finally completed their mission and returned to the island to report the results. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was in a terrible mood. His chest was filled with surging anger and killing intent that could explode at any moment. The atmosphere in the conference hall became extremely heavy and solemn. The 18 foreign race god kings stood there quietly, not daring to say anything. On the other hand, the 6 upper god kings all revealed expressions of anger, worry, and contemplation. They started to think of a solution for the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. A moment later, a purple-robed old man with antlers stroked his brown beard and asked, "Dragon Emperor, you've ruled the Starsource continent for more than 20,000 years. The forces you've secretly cultivated shouldn't be just those 6, right?" The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor suppressed his anger. He didn't want his subordinates to see his furious side. That was because it meant that he was angry, but he was powerless to do anything about it. It would definitely disappoint his confidants. Of course not. Although the forces and experts under my command have been destroyed by the myriad demon alliance. Even the 6 chess pieces that I buried have been eliminated by the myriad demon alliance. However, I buried 12 chess pieces back then. There are 6 that are hidden even more deeply. All this while, the Starsource continent has been peaceful. Therefore, those chess pieces have not been used. The 6 chess pieces in the open have been removed, but the other 6 chess pieces in the dark should still be there. Hearing this, the deer-horned old man and the 5 upper god kings heaved a sigh of relief. Their brows relaxed. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor didn't say anything else. He rummaged through his interspatial ring for a while before he found 6 unique jade slips of different colors. These 6 jade slips were simple in design and had complicated patterns. They were the communication jade slips that he used to communicate with the 6 hidden chess pieces. The 6 hidden chess pieces only recognized these jade slips. Outsiders didn't know their relationship with the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor entered the messages into the 6 jade slips and sent them out one by one. After doing this, he quietly waited for the 6 hidden chess pieces to reply. The great hall fell into silence. Time passed by silently. After an hour, a purple ray of light descended from the sky. It flew into the great hall and landed in front of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor took the purple jade slip and used his divine sense to read the information inside. After reading the contents of the jade slip, his expression didn't change. However, a look of relief flashed across his eyes. Chapter 38:10. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's divine worship traveled through 6 regions in the south of the continent for several days. The divine worship was fast and stealthy. As such, the spies of the 10,000 Demon Alliance in the south of the continent did not discover this divine worship. 7 days later, the divine worship picked up 6 batches of elites and experts from the 6 regions. These 6 batches of people each had their own characteristics. Some were from prestigious clans, some were from hidden sects, and some were from the pugilistic world. In the eyes of the world, they each had their own backing and did not form a faction. It was impossible to connect them together. However, in reality, they were the 6 hidden chess pieces that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor had planted back then. Each chess piece kept a low profile and did not reveal their strength. Even the forces that they presented to the world were only the tip of the iceberg. If they displayed their true strength, they would be stronger than the domain chief's manners of the various regions. Now, these 6 hidden chess pieces had responded to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's summons and gathered in the divine worship to carry out their mission. The 6 powers had a total of 2,000 middle god lords, 1,000 high god lords, 50 low god kings, 30 middle god kings, and 6 high god kings. After they entered the divine worship, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's forces more than doubled. It would not be a problem even if they were to fight the 10,000 Demon Alliance head-on. However, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor did not intend to do so. He wanted to head to Sky Crane Mountain first and see what his foundation was like in the Xuanji Grotto heaven. Previously, the foreign race god kings under his command had heard some news. It was said that the 10,000 Demon Alliance's soldiers had retreated to the 10,000 Demon City, leaving only Long Tian to guard the Xuanji Grotto heaven. Everyone knew that Long Tian was waiting for him to fight to the death with him. When he heard this news, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor sneered disdainfully. Now, he was going to head to the Xuanji Grotto heaven to fulfill Long Tian's wish. He wanted to see exactly how arrogant this rising star of the younger generation that had only risen to prominence in recent years was to actually dare challenge him, an overlord of the ages. 10 days later, at the peak of Sky Crane Mountain. This 10,000 zhang tall mountain was still in perfect condition. The mountain peak stood tall in the white sea of clouds, and the immortal energy was still faintly discernible. Even the huge stone statue on the mountain peak and the array patterns carved on the ground were not damaged at all. Right above the mountain peak, the huge, bright moon was still hanging in the sky, slowly rotating. However, one could vaguely see that there were 9 crisscrossing shallow marks in the bright moon, flowing slowly like a river. Shwa! A divine ship flew over from the south and landed on the peak of Sky Crane Mountain. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, who was wearing a golden robe and a divine crown, was the first to step out of the divine ship and stand at the peak of Sky Crane Mountain. Then, the 12 upper god kings and the 48 middle god kings led by the deer-horned elder stepped out of the divine warship and stood behind the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Everyone followed the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's gaze and looked at the bright moon in the sky. With the eyesight of the 60 divine king powerhouses, they were naturally able to tell that that bright moon was rather strange. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor frowned and smiled coldly. He said, "As I expected, that little bastard really changed the array at the Grotto Heaven's entrance." The deer-horned elder stared at the bright moon for a while before he said calmly, "It's just a high king-grade divine array. Even if he put in some effort and stacked the array, it can only create some trouble for us. It can't stop the Dragon Emperor. If that's all he has, then I'm going to be disappointed." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor laughed coldly. He turned around to look at the 60 divine kings behind him and laughed self-mockingly. "It's just to deal with a junior who hasn't made a name for himself yet. How laughable." The deer-horned elder said calmly, "Even an eagle needs to use all its strength to catch a rabbit. That kid is naturally no match for the Dragon Emperor. However, we are only here to prevent him from playing any tricks." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor did not say anything else. He pointed at the bright moon and ordered, "Break that divine array within a day." The deer-horned elder cupped his hands and said, "Understood." Then, he led the other divine kings into the sky and spread out around the bright moon. The deer-horned elder was in control of the situation. He observed the great 9 bends of Heaven River's array and thought of a way to break it. The 11 high-level god kings and 48 middle-level god kings also used their abilities to study the mysteries of the sealing array. Everyone gathered their thoughts and communicated through voice transmissions. After 15 minutes of discussion, they decided on the direction and method to break the array. The deer-horned elder was still in charge of the situation. He commanded the 11 high-level god kings and 48 middle-level god kings. Under his arrangement, the divine kings lined up in a formation and cast their spells in an orderly and rhythmic manner. They began to work together to break the array. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor stood high in the sky and looked at everything with an indifferent expression. He was thinking about the next step of his plan. As time passed, the process of breaking the array was carried out in an orderly manner. The deer-horned elder was indeed a 9th heaven realm god king. His strength was a level higher than Wuxia and the battle dragon king. Under his leadership, the dozens of divine kings worked together and slowly broke the 9 bends of the Heaven River array. Everyone could clearly sense that the 9 bends of the Heaven River array on the bright moon was gradually fading and its power was rapidly weakening. However, their speed of breaking the array was still too slow. It was basically impossible to complete it within a day. When it was late at night, more than half of the day's time limit had passed. However, they were only halfway through breaking the array. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was clearly unhappy and he frowned. The deer-horned elder was good at reading people's expressions and he immediately saw that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was unhappy. He hurriedly flew to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's side and apologized softly. He explained, "Your Majesty, please forgive us. Some of us are from outside the region and some are from different forces. We are too unfamiliar with each other and we don't have good teamwork. This is why the speed of breaking the array is so slow." The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor glanced at him and sneered, "Stop making excuses. You are afraid that I will be angry and that is why you don't dare to tell the truth. The truth is that Long Tian, that little bastard, has high attainments in the array Dao. Although the array he set up is only a king-grade high-grade divine array, it is not inferior to a supreme-grade divine array. This. The deer-horned elder smiled awkwardly and did not say anything else. There was no other way. You have already told me the truth. How can I refute you? The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor said in a low voice, do you think that I am such a stubborn and self-opinionated person who refuses to face reality? The deer-horned elder hurriedly shook his head. Of course not. Your Majesty, you are broad-minded and far-sighted. The Golden Origin Dragon Emperor waved his hand and said expressionlessly, there is no need to say anything else. I will personally break the array with you. The deer-horned elder naturally would not refuse. He hurriedly flew back into the sky with the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor and continued to break the array. With the addition of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor, the efficiency of breaking the array was greatly increased and the speed was doubled. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 38:11. Finally, at the end of the day, the great formation of 9 bends of Heaven River was broken by the experts. The 9 faint traces of the Milky Way that wrapped around the bright moon had all dissipated. With a crack, a hole was torn open in the great formation of 9 bends of Heaven River. The hole expanded to a radius of 3 zhang. The deer-horned elder and the other god-kings worked together to reinforce the hole, preventing it from closing. Then, the Gold Source Dragon Emperor led the deer-horned elder and the other god-kings through the hole and into the moon. Whoosh! With a flash of white light, the group was swallowed up. In the next instant, the group entered the Xuanji Grotto Heaven and followed the Gold Source Dragon Emperor. The Gold Source Dragon Emperor did not fly very quickly. As he flew through the sky, he scanned the surroundings with his divine sense to observe the situation in the Grotto Heaven. The millstone at the entrance had been destroyed long ago. Everything within a radius of tens of thousands of li had been reduced to ruins. There were still ravines and deep pits on the ground. Even though a year had passed, he could still sense the chaotic aura of divine power lingering in the ruins. In some of the pits and ruins, he could still see fragments of the Golden Dragon Guard's armor and weapons. Although the surroundings were empty and abnormally quiet. When the Gold Source Dragon Emperor saw the ruins and the marks on the ground, he could still imagine the tragic scene of the battle. His expression became colder and colder. His eyes also became colder and colder. Anger and killing intent burned in his chest. The deer-horned elder and the other god-kings all felt the Gold Source Dragon Emperor's anger and killing intent. Their hearts also became heavy. The group flew through the sky and did not conceal their auras at all. They went straight into the depths of the Grotto Heaven. Along the way, all they saw was shattered earth and messy ruins. Those huge ravines and deep pits seemed to be telling the group how many people had participated in the battle and how tragic it had been. Even the deer-horned elder and the other god-kings had not lived in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven before. They did not recognize the Golden Dragon Guards. However, they still felt heavy, depressed, and angry. As for the owner of the Xuanji Grotto Heaven, the Gold Source Dragon Emperor, he was even more angry. His eyes had turned red. Finally, after an hour, the group stopped above a ruin that was 100,000 li in radius. The ruins were exceptionally messy, and the residual divine power aura was exceptionally dense. The ground was full of deep pits, ravines, and yellow sand, indicating that this was the main battlefield of the great battle. The silent Gold Origin Dragon Emperor could no longer suppress the grief and anger in his heart. He roared to the sky, Long Tian. Myriad Demon Alliance. Even if this emperor destroys the Myriad Demon Alliance and takes back the Xuanji Grotto, it will take me hundreds of years to restore it to its former glory. The deer-horned elder bowed slightly and comforted, Your Majesty, don't worry. When you regain control of the Starsource continent, countless skilled craftsmen will be willing to rebuild the Divine Palace for you. Moreover, the Myriad Demon Alliance only appeared after you ruled the continent for more than 20,000 years. After this incident, there will be no other force that dares to challenge your authority in the next 10,000 years. No matter how strong or arrogant a force is, the myriad demon alliance's outcome is the best example. These words touched the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's heart. He indeed calmed down a lot. After that, the two of them talked about some miscellaneous matters and plans for the future. Unknowingly, a day passed just like that. The 6 teams that were searching for Ji Tianqing also returned to the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor and reported the results of their search. Your Majesty, we were unable to find any traces of Long Tian. Your Majesty, we were unable to find anything in the areas we were in charge of. Your Majesty, the 6 teams were in charge of different areas. They searched the entire Xuanji Grotto within a day. Unfortunately, they all received the same results. They were unable to find Long Tian. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor immediately frowned and asked with a gloomy face, Long Tian is not in the Xuanji Grotto? Was the news you received earlier fake? An upper-level God King quickly nodded and took the opportunity to flatter the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor. Your Majesty, you are right. Who is Long Tian? Why would he dare to wait here alone for your Majesty's return? In my opinion, he must have purposely released fake news to mislead the people. In reality, he has already left the Xuanji Grotto and hid in the Myriad Demon City. The deer-horned elder pondered for a moment and shook his head. The news might not be fake. Long Tian's strength is not ordinary. Even if he secretly left the Xuanji Grotto, no one would know. Temporarily left. The Gold Origin Dragon Emperor raised his eyebrows and sneered, then we will wait here for him to come back and die. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.